Hello and welcome to Diminishing Returns. It's Oscars season again, Sol. My name is Alan, by the way. This is Sol.
Ooh.
And we are going to take our annual whistle-stop tour through the Best Picture nominees, as we have done for several years now.
God, I can't believe it's this time again, already.
And
Wow.
last year was a total shit show because nothing had come out.
So even worse this year. This is. Should I lay my cards out? I think this is the worst Oscars in 20 years, something like that. I think we got away with it last time. COVID got in the way of any films being made or released, but at the last minute they had a few films they've been working on. They snuck them out. Last year's Oscars ended up being all right. This year I think we're really running on fumes, and everything that's been available for nomination is just shit. And the Academy committed to 10 nominations this year.
Why?
That's a new rule they wanted to introduce. I think. Well,
I thought
why?
they specifically didn't do that when they increased it for this reason.
Yeah.
So there's no filler.
Yeah. Well, they increased it, I think, this time round to try and throw a bone to Spider-Man and stuff like that. Things people actually, because the viewing figures, they're always dwindling for the Oscars, and ultimately it's a money-making exercise. It's a big TV show they're making, and I think they thought, right, we'll increase it to 10, and then something people want to see, Spider-Man, that'll get nominated. And all it meant is that instead they nominated Power of the Dog. That's a bad example, because Power of the Dog is probably the favourite to win this year. Now, if you're not hearing Alan jump in with grunts of exasperation at that, we should come clean. We are recording this in 2 separate sessions, Alan and I, but when you listen back, it will be edited into a seamless whole.
But I'm only halfway through them so far.
Exactly, it's a production thing, and it means that for the first 4 films we're talking about today, we haven't seen all of the nominees yet, so there might be some gaps.
Well, it just means we won't be able to directly compare them straight away.
Yeah.
We're going to speak about individual films anyway, so that's fine.
But Alan, this year at the Oscars, they're doing the ceremony with 3 hosts instead of none, which is what they did last time, and 1, which is what they used to do in the past. So I think we should get a 3rd host in to help us out in the spirit of things.
Is that right? And who do you think that host should be?
I know that Jared Leto was really keen on hosting the Oscars this year in character, as his character from House of Gucci. He wanted to do it in character as Paolo Gucci, and they obviously didn't. Well, I don't think they've hired him to do it. Maybe he'll come out and do an award. But I think we should get him in. So, I'd like to introduce Jared Leto's Paolo Gucci. Hello, Paolo. Hello. Oh, it's me, Paolo Gucci. Hello.
So just to be clear, you've not seen House of Gucci.
I've seen House of Gucci.
Oh, right. So that is an accurate.
Rendition. This is Alan, if you can believe it. This is an accurate. This is him himself. This is Jared Leto. I don't know why you're making that face.
Good. Sorry, Jared. I haven't seen House of Gucci. So
this is how I play Paolo. This is Paolo Gucci in House of Gucci. It's an accurate performance.
It's a bit Borat.
Sounds a bit like Borat there. Oh yes, my wife.
Gucci is nice.
Gucci is nice. Yes. Okay. Well,
do we have to do it with Jared Leto? Is he the only option?
Look, as we know, Alan, good things can't just be good. You have to put scenes in with Jared Leto to just ruin it every few minutes, right? That's what we learned from Blade Runner 2049. It's what we learned from Fight Club.
Suicide Squad.
God, yeah. I mean, anyway. Well, thanks, Paolo. Do you know much about films, Paolo? Are you a big movie fan? Oh, I like the Super Mario Bros. Movie with Bob Hoskins. Okay, that's
refined taste.
Yeah. That is in character, really, with Paolo as he's presented in the film. He has very refined taste, just like that. And any other films you like? Oh, I like Meatballs with Bill Murray. Is that a joke because you're Italian? Oh no, I didn't even put that together. It's just
Oh, I didn't realise what you were doing there.
yeah. I also like stripes. Oh, okay. So it isn't just the it isn't
Bill
just
Murray
the
guy.
Yeah, just a Bill Murray fan. Well, I
Bill
didn't.
Murray.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I wouldn't have put you down as a Bill Murray fan. Bill Murray is sadly not present in this year's Oscar films. But yeah, Paolo, do you want to introduce our first film then today? We've decided every year now we go through the Oscars in a really good, a really funny, witty order. Last year I think we went in order of inclusion based on a spreadsheet I made.
Ethnic diversity.
Ethnic diversity.
Like
It wasn't just ethnic, just diversity in general, from least to most. The year before that, we went in chronological order from when they were set with our time machine. That was a good one. This year, because we've not seen them all yet at the time of recording, we're going in the order in which Alan has watched them.
Yes, it's a perfectly valid order. Yeah, and the first one is the one I went to see before I knew it was nominated. So I just went to see
same.
It.
I mean, I was banking. I did think it was highly likely it would be nominated, but I would have gone to see it regardless. It's a pedigree. Paolo, do you want to open the envelope? Introduce the actual film. Oh yes. Okay, it's a West Side Story. Okay, thank you, Paolo. Oh, okay, West Side Story,
It's
Alan.
West Side Story, yes. West Side Story. Now, I don't know if you know this, Sol, but this is actually a remake of a film in the 60s.
What?
Bet you've never heard of that, have you?
A remake at the Oscars?
Yeah, you and your blinkered lifestyle of only watching films for the last 20 years.
I thought the Oscars only rewarded originality.
I don't know where you got that idea, but I'm afraid.
You're telling me Steven Spielberg couldn't come up with a new idea? He had to just steal something from the olden days?
Apparently, yeah. He's just knocked this one out. He's getting on. What is he, 75 or something? Maybe he's just needed an easy year.
Well, you know what, Alan? All joking aside there, I think Spielberg has entered a bit of a rut ever since he made Schindler's List, and it sort of broke him. And he's made some good films since, don't get me wrong, but he hasn't made anything that really has a degree of like magic. Like, wow, this is an incredible filmmaker at work here. Everything just kind of feels like he's going through the motions, knocking stuff out. West Side Story is the first time I feel like I've seen old school Spielberg in what's that been, 20 plus years. This felt like rejuvenated Spielberg. It felt like a labor of love, which is, it makes sense because he loves West Side Story, the original film and musical. It's like one of his favorite things. He grew up with it as a kid. His parents bought the soundtrack. He wore out the record. He's a big fan, and I think that comes across here. You can tell this film was made by an absolute master filmmaker in a way that I don't think comes across when you watch something like The Post.
Yeah, I will say that when I went to see West Side Story, it was a cinematic masterpiece. It's every shot is just beautifully labored over. The lighting is amazing. And that's not something that I really notice.
The technical filmmaking is just, it's another level. I can't remember the last time I watched a film where I thought like, wow, like the cinematography, but like it's everything about it. It's not just where you put the camera. It's the framing, like you say, the lighting, and
the set design. I presume they've had to build a 60s tenement.
The set design, the choreography, even like every little detail is just brought together magnificently.
Isn't it a shame then?
Yeah. I was going to say the exact same
story
thing.
Is total
exactly. I'm going to read a quote from the little. In fact, I'm going to read out verbatim the review I posted on Letterboxd after I saw this film. Exquisitely constructed. Shame the source material was West Side Story instead of something with more than 3 good songs. It's just, I'd love to see Spielberg put this energy and attention to work on something else. Because
Yeah,
the thing that holds this film back is the fact that it's West Side Story.
Yeah, and more specifically that every character is so unlikable, and there was one character that I liked, and that is the big sister type. You know, she's the one who's married to the older brother, who's
the one who's nominated for an Oscar.
Whoever. I can't remember the character name's name. Anita, yeah. She's the one that you feel sorry for. She's actually good, a good person, generally speaking, and she gets a little bit of revenge to some extent at the end.
I tell you, Alan,
she
is not only the one acting nominee from this film, but she is the favourite to win for Best Supporting Actress.
I mean, the performance was fine, don't get me wrong, but that's not what jumped out at me. I was just talking about the character. That was the only one that I felt like deserved any kind of redemption or retribution at all.
I'm yet to watch some of the films, but I'm just going to come out and say it right now. West Side Story is by far my favourite film of the year out of this bunch of Oscar nominees. And I'm only going to give it 7 out of 10, Alan. So, spoilers.
Is it going to win the technical awards, though?
I don't know. It's not getting nearly as much love as I think it really should do at Oscar season. This deserves to sweep the technical awards as far as I'm concerned. It deserves to be certainly for your set design and cinematography and sound editing. But Power of the Dog's probably going to win cinematography, from what I can gather.
Well, let me ask you this, Sol.
To be fair, Power of the Dog is also a beautiful looking film, but you know.
Let me ask you, Sol. So usually when they do a musical, even if it's adapted from something else, they make sure they put an original song in so they can get an original song Oscar. Did they do that? Because I'm not familiar enough with West Side Story to judge.
No, they didn't. I think Spielberg just went, well, fuck that.
Spielberg's got the power.
What I will say is I think generally when they do that, it's like we're going to get back the original songwriting team and give them a shot at this Oscar. And, you know, the original songwriting team here is Stephen Sondheim, who died shortly after the film came out, but was alive, to be fair. They could have got him, and whoever did the music, because he did the lyrics. But I'm going to guess I think Stephen Sondheim was very young when he wrote the lyrics.
Yeah, it's 50 years. Oh, no, 60 years since West Side Story.
Yeah, it was his first.
George Chakiris is still alive, isn't he?
I don't know. Is that the
George Chakiris won he won an Oscar for West Side Story, Best Supporting Actor Oscar for West Side Story in 1962, whatever it was. And I think if he's still alive, he's the oldest, like the longest standing Oscar winner, you know? Longest still alive since he won, if that makes sense.
But no, I agree, the characters let it down. The fact that it's West Side Story and therefore just a kind of Romeo and Juliet thing, like, it's fine, but it just feels very basic. This film tries to get a bit darker with the kind of street gang violence side of things, but it doesn't. It's still unintentionally hilarious when they do the Jets Sharks like ballet and they're trying to be tough guys, and
that's it. It just doesn't. The two worlds don't merge.
I saw Animaniacs making fun of that when I was a kid, and I'm sure they were far from the first people to make fun of ballet street gangs. So it's like it's not even. It's like it's well-worn comedic material at this point. And yeah, like, you know, I think Spielberg tries to bring some of the darkness and grit back into it by, you know, not shying away from the fact that they're all like racist and corrupt policemen and blah 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 blah. But that just makes everyone unlikable.
Feels like if you're making that in 2022, you actually have to make a statement. You can't just acknowledge. I don't know. It felt like it. Like, what was the point of remaking it? Like, what are you saying that's new that you couldn't say 60 years ago? Like, what's apart from like, oh, I love it and I want to make a really nice looking version of it.
The point is, I'm paraphrasing someone here, but it's the same principle. The point is, you go and watch. Who's a musician that everyone likes? You go and watch
Ed Sheeran.
Right, let's say you like Ed Sheeran, right? You go and watch Ed Sheeran, and in his set list, he breaks out, for the encore, let's say, he breaks out a cover of Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles, right? You know it's not going to be as good. He's not even trying to, like, he's not trying to reinvent it. It's just a song he loves. It's a song everyone loves. And it's just nice to see him play it. And I think that's kind of what we've got here. Spielberg loves West Side Story. He wants to do his West Side Story. It's not like he's reinventing it, but he's doing it, and it's
Ed
great
Sheeran
to see a master.
$200 million single version that he's touring the world with.
Well, that's because his medium is very different to film, you know.
But that's all well and good. But I'll tell you this though, the bits. So you got that main couple that are at the heart of the story, obviously, like the Romeo and Juliet types.
Yeah,
they're obviously really annoying characters. The things they do to the people around them are quite evil sometimes, and obviously irresponsible. But I liked stuff where they weren't in it. My favorite bit was it's the gang in the police station and they do that whole "Hey, Officer Crunk."
Well, that's one of my favorite songs from the original.
Is that your name?
Yeah.
Krupke?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah, Matt Krupke.
You're Officer Krupke.
I am.
Familiar with West Side Story?
No, sir.
You never heard the song?
No, sir.
Oh, Officer Krupke, what are we to do? Gee, Officer Krupke, Krupp you. You never heard that?
No.
Has anybody ever said Krupp you?
No.
Huh.
Some guy told me to go fuck my face once. He went to jail.
I will say, like, most of the songs here I thought were largely done pretty well, but my favourite song from the original film is Quintet, you know, the big medley of everything, and boy, did they fucking drop the ball with the big medley here. Like, in the original film, it made very extensive use of split screen and screen wipes and stuff to kind of have all those characters singing together. And this film felt like it was going out of its way to not do that, so it couldn't be accused of copying the original in any way. And it just felt really awkward. And it was a bit like watching One Day More in Les Miserables, where it's like, well, they're going for realism, so like having everyone sing this closely together, this intricately timed, it's not quite playing. And then they changed some of the lyrics inexplicably, and I don't know, the whole thing just didn't quite come together. It's not got as many elements at once. There's a few elements missing from it, you know, and so I was pretty let down there. Have you seen the original West Side Story, Alan? You must have done, right? It was Best Picture
not particularly
winner.
Recently, to be honest with you, but yeah, I've seen it a few times.
Am I right thinking it won Best Picture back in 60, whatever it was, 62?
61 it would have been, I think, when it came out. I feel like watching that, it's set in the past, and there's a set, obviously it wasn't when it came out, but there's a sense of disconnect there for me.
Obviously,
whereas like
100%.
watching this, which is still set in that time period, it feels like, well, I can't accept this kind of storytelling because it's not good enough.
I am surprised actually when I first heard Spielberg was doing West Side Story, I kind of assumed he was just going to update the time it was set to modern day.
Yeah, it feels like you could do that quite easily, doesn't it? Like it's
and that would make it feel somewhat more justified in what it's doing. I don't know. I will say I think Spielberg's version of the film is the superior film, frankly, of the two. I think the filmmaking on show is just so good. If you're into West Side Story, you probably love the songs. So it is a 10 out of 10 West Side Story film, you know, but that only equates to, as I say, a 7 out of 10 from me. But like I say, at the time of recording, it's my favorite of the nominees that I've seen. So I'm currently banking for this one to win. It won't, but I think it should.
It won't win. I can't win. No. But I give it 6 out of 10, and like I say, I can't fault the kind of technical side of it, but that's not really what pushes my buttons, you know. I can appreciate it, but that's not going to win me over.
Well, talking about just remaking an old film because you like it and you can. Which was the next one you watched, Alan?
Yeah, Nightmare Alley.
Sorry, Paolo, I took away your It's okay. I do not know how to read that well anyway, so it's okay. You introduce. All right, Paolo. Have you seen any of these films, Paolo? No. Did you watch any films this year, Paolo? I watched House of Dracula because I am stupid in the film. I'm so stupid. I watched the wrong film. I see House of Dracula. I think it's House of Gucci, and then Bela Lugosi, Vampire Man, come out, and Okay. You're a very well written, richly drawn character, aren't you, Paolo? I can't believe the Oscars didn't want you to host the ceremony this year. All right, well, thanks, Paolo. So yeah, Nightmare Alley, Alan.
Yes.
Guillermo del Toro.
Well, I heard that this was not a remake of the old film, but an adaptation of the same book.
Yeah, I heard that, and then I watched the old film, and it is a remake of the old film.
Well, I watched the old film as well, yeah, but I think it's
a bit of both. I think it's undeniable.
I think perhaps the old
Toro
film is just similar to the thing. Do you recall, if I can take us back a few years, Oscars wise, when I watched Shape of Water?
Yeah,
my basic assessment of it was it's style over substance.
I thought your assessment was
nice.
You just couldn't get into it at all from a human emotional perspective.
Yeah, but it looks great, and it's like, okay, yeah, it's a nicely made film. I enjoyed it, but it didn't have anything to say. And Nightmare Alley is like that extra. It looks great. There's some nice performances. It has absolutely nothing to say, and it doesn't know why it's saying it.
And it is, I largely agree with you. I think it's a really beautiful film, a lot of style and panache, but a bit too dry. I couldn't get into it on a human emotional character level this time round, whereas I could with Pan's Labyrinth, I could with The Shape of Water. And I don't know, I think it's far too long. I think it needed a hell of a lot more focus in the edit. We have basically an hour-long prologue before the film gets started, maybe it
just feels like, well, this was all pointless. Thanks. They could have just started with the meeting,
exactly.
Started with them on the stage and then maybe a couple of flashbacks to see how they met.
That is how I would do it, exactly. Start with him, the first scene you see Cate Blanchett, where he's on stage performing as a spirit medium, a mentalist, whatever he's doing.
He's a mentalist at first, and then he sort of starts dabbling in the spook show, which he's warned not to do.
Start on that scene and just see the carny stuff in flashbacks.
And you could reduce it considerably.
Yeah.
I guess, I'll tell you, spoiler alert, I'm going to slightly give away the ending, although it's not really relevant.
Anyone who hasn't seen this film, it is about a psychic guy. It's like a guy who
carny,
becomes a carny, picks up the trade of quote unquote reading people's minds, and it's all a scam, obviously, because this film's set in the real world rather than a magic world where magic exists. And then he becomes a big celebrity, breaks free from the circus. He's kind of doing it, just selling out tickets of his own, and then he gets involved in some con man shit, and it all goes a bit messy, and people die. That's kind of the
it's kind of when he really starts to try and sell it as a real thing rather than it's just an act.
The people he learns from at the carnival have a set of code of ethics that they stand by, which basically are don't trick people into thinking you're talking to their dead relatives, because it's despicable. Frankly, I hate spirit mediums. Alan, has this come up before? Right? They really rub me the wrong way. There's just something about there's obviously worse people out there, murderers and terrorists and stuff, but the spirit mediums are the first people I'd put up against the wall. So
fair enough. But so basically it's the kind of the rise and fall of this particular guy. It's a kind of life story of him achieving the great things, but then throwing it all away. And I really get a sense. I got this sense with the Cate Blanchett character. And I'm going to sort of give some sort of spoilers here. So I haven't seen it, sort of skip forward a few minutes. But towards the end, when it all starts crashing down and it's all a bit revealed, I was thinking the way this is filmed, the way this is all made and everything, is she supposed to be like the devil? Is that what this is kind of going for? It was so not unrealistic, but stylistic that it felt like if she'd done a devil's advocate on us and it turned out she was Satan or along, that would have made sense within the character story.
Because... Paolo, you brought your dad. You brought your dad with us.
House of Gucci. You put on them jeans and you'll have a great ass.
Oh, Daddy, that's a very. So a shame House of Gucci isn't nominated this year, Alan. It really is. I'd love to talk about that film. Anyway, thanks Al Pacino for stopping in. Whatever your character's called, you can sit with Paolo over there.
Senor Gucci. But yeah, so Nightmare Alley, yeah, it looks quite amazing in places, but it feels very stylistic. It feels like, ooh, let's make this look really cool, as opposed to let's make a good film.
And honestly, I wasn't blown away by the look of this film. It looks nice. I've seen better looking Guillermo del Toro films, and it doesn't look as nice as West Side Story, you know?
Yeah. It's like, yeah, well, it's set in the 30s, so this is what the 30s looks like.
Yeah. But, you know, I think of, del Toro, it's going to look incredible, and I don't, if anything, it under-delivered on what I kind of expected just on that front. Like, it looked good, but the only thing that really surprised me with this film was just the scale of the casts, like the talent, like the actors employed for like one line, you know. It's like every actor in this film is someone where I was like, oh my god, it's
Mary Steenburgen pops up. Clifton Collins Jr. is basically an extra.
Yeah, Mary Steenburgen, 2 scenes she has. Only one scene, and then a quick like flashback to her a bit later on to see what she's up to.
That is, you can tell though that's been filmed in one afternoon. It's like all in one little set, round a table. Like there's 2 scenes that you've obviously filmed really quickly, so you can get someone in for that.
You expect it with Ron Perlman and the Del Toro people, but it's like it's everyone in this film. It's like, oh, it's them out of that thing, and I don't know the name, but they're a good actor. And there's Tim Blake Nelson. And the obvious Bradley Cooper is the lead. Cate Blanchett is a very big supporting role. Willem Dafoe is, you know, a very big supporting part in the first kind of...
How do you feel about Bradley Cooper?
I've never understood the hype. I don't dislike him. I think he's a perfectly capable actor.
I think I'm basically saying the same. I like him. Yeah, no problems with him, but I've never been wowed by him either.
I'll tell you the one thing I've been surprised with him, because I didn't realize it was him until I looked up who the guy was afterwards, which is another film we're going to be talking about in a few minutes. So, I mean, I guess you know what.
All right, yeah.
That's the one time I was like, oh, who was that guy? Oh, it's Bradley Cooper. Okay.
No, it's pretty obviously him.
Yeah, I know, but I don't think it is that obvious, because to me, I know women think he's the most gorgeously attractive man in the world, but as someone who, you know, isn't into men, I see him as the most sort of boring,
generic white
guy. And I guess people just find generic, you know, could just disappear into a crowd faces attractive because there's nothing wrong with it, you know, it's just there. You know, even him as Rocket Raccoon, it's like I still wish they'd gone for Danny DeVito, like who he was up against. You know, it's just he's fine. He's not even fine. He's a good actor. He's very capable actor. But I've just never seen him in something where I've thought, oh yeah, this guy, wow, I want to see more of him.
I haven't heard anything about him as a person, like, or behind the scenes, so I don't know, but this is complete speculation, but he seems like someone who takes himself too seriously. Do you know what I mean? Like, it feels like he's coming on set, like, in character, he's doing his Jared Leto and all that. So, I don't know, but, like, I just feel like, maybe he takes himself.
Yeah.
Especially when he's writing and directing himself, or whatever he did with Lady Gaga.
How can you say Jared Leto take himself too seriously, Alan? Yeah, I think Jared Leto a very funny man, very nice man. He gave me some nice gnocchi for my birthday, and we eat pesto together. We make pesto, gabalagouche.
But did he also send you like a dead rat in a condom?
Of course. But that's what we do in Gucci. That's Italian. We are very passionate people.
All right, Paolo. Look, we know where your colours are stamped. All right,
okay.
Let's.
All right.
Oh, let's rate it. What did you give Nightmare Alley then?
Honestly, it was trundling along at a 6 out of 10 for most of the runtime for me. It really pulls its shit together in the last act, and it kind of engaged me enough. The ending was good enough that it just pulled that up to a very low 7 out of 10 for me.
The very ending.
Yeah,
you see it coming about 20 minutes beforehand.
But I saw it coming from the first scene. But I've heard Del Toro speak about it, and he says you're supposed to. I think the idea is you're meant to be watching this man's march towards the inevitability.
It's not a twist or anything.
His downfall. But I do think it could have been handled a lot better to have a bit more impact. I don't feel like it had quite the punch it was clearly supposed to.
Well, I guess I largely agree with you. I gave it a 6, so it didn't win me over particularly, but
fair. It really needed a tighten up, I think, in the edit. But
do you want to quickly give a rating for the Nightmare Alley from 1957 or whatever it was?
I'd give that a very low 7 as well. It's a real
1947. Sorry, it was.
Yeah. It's it feels like an old B movie. But taking it at its level, with all the kind of weak dialogue and bad acting that sort of came with the 40s, it's fine. It's also far too long.
I wasn't as forgiving as you. I gave it a 4. It was just like, it's such old-fashioned style. But I don't think it was even particularly good for the time. It felt very B.
I found the story relatively
melodrama.
Engaging. It was melodrama. Yeah, melodrama. That's the word. Yeah, definitely. All right, Paolo. Actually, should we get?
I know who's coming in to introduce the next one.
Yeah, should we get another guest in to introduce this one, Alan? Ding dong.
Ding dong. All right, there, fellas. How's it going now? It's me.
You're right, Liam.
It's definitely not racist, Jamie Dornan. Yes, it's old Liam here. Still can't do the Belfast accent despite being from there.
Yeah, it's more of a Dublin accent you got going.
It's definitely Southern Ireland, no doubt about that. But here we go. We're talking about the Belfast, the film. I grew up in the Belfast, and I said to my old fella there, Kenneth Branagh, I says to him, Kenneth, you want to do a film about the Belfast in the olden days, like when there's troubles and such, and so that was my idea. You see, I was supposed to be playing Jamie Dornan, and he said, he's too old. I says, what you talking about? And I said I could play the grandmother, the Judi Dench there. She'd beat me to it. You see, Judi Dench and myself are on national treasure status. We're both equally loved by the British public. So what you gonna do? Hey, you can't fight the Dench. That's what they say in the industry. She's not a dog, I tell you that.
Would you like to weigh in on the very mild controversy that Eamon Holmes tried to whip up about this film? Now, remember, we're going way back.
Eamon Holmes went after Kenneth Branagh.
we tried to start some beef with Eamon Holmes back in the day, didn't we? I think we should reignite that. Eamon Holmes and his hairy hands. He apparently Eamon Holmes took issue with the film because the film, and I'd like to hear your view on this, Liam. Apparently, Eamon Holmes said that he grew up same area near to Kenneth Branagh, same time. He said they didn't have an Indian corner shop owner or a black teacher or Chinese pupils in the classroom when he grew up. Everyone was just white.
Yeah,
and he didn't like that in the film because there's a few people of diverse backgrounds.
That did jump out at me, actually, because the idea of an Indian guy running a corner shop seems very kind of British. That seems totally believable, just because Eamon Holmes didn't have one at his street.
Well, that's it. I saw he's the only person of color I remembered in the film afterwards. When I read that Eamon Holmes was complaining, I was like, really? I thought they were all white. And then I remembered, right, well, the shopkeeper, well, yeah, that's, I guess maybe that was more of a thing in the 70s that, Asian people came to the UK and set up shops. I don't know.
Before that, yeah.
But I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I did notice, I genuinely did notice the teacher, she's I mean, it looks like she's probably mixed race or whatever. But yeah, that sort of jumped out at me because I thought, yeah, there's not going to be many people of color in this area. Like a first generation immigrant shopkeepers felt totally in keeping. But that's Belfast. I mean, I'm sort of comparing it to where I grew up, was a tiny little village. Belfast is and was still a major city. It's like even if you're in the suburbs.
Well, that's it. I grew up in a tiny little city, a tiny little village out in the countryside, but we still had a few Chinese people who ran the Chinese takeaway and a couple of Asian people who ran the Indian takeaway. I mean, but then I grew up in the noughties. I imagine it was a very different time to the. But 60s.
There are two non-white people in the film. I don't know if that's exactly gilding the lily, is it? It's not.
Yeah, well, it's an odd. I didn't pick up on it, but I also didn't grow up in Belfast in the 60s. But I don't know. Eamon Holmes was claiming that they had to do it for funding to tick boxes, and I don't know how true that is.
I think if you're talking about ticking funding boxes, one person having 4 lines in a scene is not ticking the ethnic diversity box. That's not what they're doing. And I don't think whoever trying to get funding for Belfast by Kenneth Branagh is worrying about that. If you're making a film set in 1960s Belfast. Anyway, that feels like a bit of a non-controversy, to be honest with you.
No, I agree. It's Eamon Holmes trying to make himself relevant, isn't it? Anyway, Belfast. So I think I've complained about Kenneth Branagh before. Have I on the podcast?
Oh, I'm sure. We did Hamlet, remember?
Oh yeah, exactly. Let's go back to Hamlet. So, I'm going to pick up the ball that I was rolling with Hamlet. I basically said I didn't think that Kenneth Branagh was a very good actor based on Hamlet. It felt like he was mimicking Shakespeare that he's seen performed. Because his way of performing Hamlet is to just randomly modulate the volume of his voice without any real reason or rhyme as to how or why he's talking, because that's how he's seen people do it on the stage, and it can be very, very engaging. And that's Kenneth Branagh's Hamlet, right? And also, I think you always see the gears and cogs turning. You never lose yourself in it. But anyway, I think that is Kenneth Branagh as an artist. I don't think he's an artist. I think he's a mimic. I think he's spent enough time operating within the world of the arts to become very good at doing an impression of people that will superficially play to people who perhaps don't think about things in as much detail as other people do. He's brilliant. So I think superficially Belfast plays like a masterpiece. I think superficially Belfast plays like, oh, well, it's in black and white, therefore it's beautifully shot and meaningful.
Let me jump in on that right away. The film opens with, like, I've seen the trailer, I knew it was black and white, but the film opens with like colour shots of Belfast's present day, I guess, and then it kind of fades into and this is what it used to be like. And it goes into black and white. And like that's what I was thinking, like, it's 2022 and the cinematic language we're using is, it's the olden days, it's black and white. That's the cinematic.
It's not just that, Alan. No, it's not just that. It's also every time the kid watches art that takes him out of the world, like Cinema Paradiso style, he escapes into films. Ooh, they're in colour. On the stage, it's in colour. Yeah. When he's watching TV in his house, it's not in colour because the TV was in black and white. So, he doesn't have the degree. He doesn't have the degree of artistry to do what I would do, which would be to just make his TV in colour anyway, because you're doing the colour for the sake of artistry. Star Trek was obviously shot in colour, so he could do that if he wanted to. Anyway, but basically, I just think this film is like Kenneth Branagh's watched a load of Fellini films. He's watched a load of Ken Loach films. He's seen a load of good films by good filmmakers, and he's gone, oh, I like that little thing they did. I like that little thing they did. Oh, Quentin Tarantino just copies people, doesn't he? And that works out pretty well. But Quentin Tarantino copies with purpose. He goes, oh, I love how they did this to do that. I'm going to do this to do that. Kenneth Branagh goes, I love this bit in that film. I'm just going to throw it in here because that's all filmmaking is, right? You just throw a load of shit at a wall and it doesn't have to actually be saying anything or mean anything. And that's this film. It has nothing actually to say.
No.
It is superficial. I actually think the cinematography is quite ugly. I'm so
It's
glad it
jarring, isn't
it hasn't been nominated for an Oscar for cinematography, and I think initially people thought it would. It's in black and white, but it's flat. It's badly shot. There's poor lens choices, badly lit.
I'll tell you what it was. I think it was the lighting, because there's shots of the street. They have this street, the sort of two terrace rows sort of against each other. And I can only assume that they built that in a studio somewhere, because it's lit in this really artificial way that I don't think you could actually light a real street that way. And it's also kind of really flat. And I mean literally flat, as in a three-dimensional sense. It's
completely.
And these straight lines
Throughout the film.
And these straight lines, and I just
think
it feels completely unlived in, and too kind of cut and dry to be a real street.
But it feels to me like I am a good photographer in the sense that I can frame a shot. I can pick up a camera and know the framing, because that's intuitive. You don't have to learn anything there. But I'm not a good photographer in that I don't understand aperture settings and the science behind it. I don't have a clue. This film felt to me like if I picked up a camera, it would look like that. Because this is someone who's kind of got half of it down. They're kind of like, right, I'm going to frame a nice shot up here. But they have no understanding of how to then make it look good, make it look professional. And I almost thought, oh, Kenneth Branagh must have shot this himself, but no, he hired a professional apparently. But the other problem with this film is kind of on that note of just copying stuff and it not really having anything to say. There's no consistency. The tone is all over the shop. It's like it's trying to be kind of a comedy 1 minute. It's trying to be like hard hitting Saving Private Ryan 1 minute.
But this is only a couple of rewrites away from being the new Billy Elliot. You know, it could be a really kind of feel good drama that has a couple of hard hitting moments, but then it's also not a hard hitting drama. It's because it's
too
set,
lightweight.
It's set during the Trouble. You know, it's basically what the film is a little boy's experience of Catholics and Protestants fighting each other literally on his doorstep, and the consequences that's having on his family, and it's not saying anything about that, and I think that's probably deliberate because you just don't want to get involved. It's just kind of going, oh, well, look, you know, this is a difficult situation for someone to be in.
Again, I'm just looking back at my Letterboxd review, and I said 1 minute you're watching a Ken Loach comedy about a romance between two 11-year-olds, and the next we're watching Ellen Kilmov's take on the Troubles. It's that degree of just tonal disparity of just, and it's just messy.
And it also didn't ring true either. Like they literally barricade the street, and they're like keeping guard on anyone who comes in and out of the street. This is like a war zone, but it doesn't feel like you're ever in that place. And
because the next minute you're watching a kid stealing Turkish Delight from Mr. Singh and being chased down the shop, and it's sort of funny.
His parents are worried about they haven't paid the tax bill. Like that's
or there's a scene where, you know, again, like the kid sees all the rioting going on, all the shit kicks off at the end, and he sees people rioting, and another older kid encourages him to start looting as well.
Yeah, he gets
they
caught
go into
up
the
in
shop.
It almost by
He
accident,
steals a thing of washing powder because his mum might like it, and he just wants to take something, and then the mum is furious with him for stealing, and then it's a really like funny scene that could have been beautiful, where she takes him back to the shop and makes him put it back in amongst rioting, looting, guns going off.
I appreciate. Yeah, you're trying to teach your child not to steal and not to loot, but this is not the time to do it. There's literally a riot going on. There's people being hurt around you.
It makes the big climax of the film, which is meant to be this huge riot, which is meant to be this like scary, you know, big thing. It makes it play like lighthearted comedy. Right, well, it's not that big a deal. It's not that dangerous because the mum's just taken the kid back into the shops, and they're just, you know,
and then like 2 minutes later he's got a gun to his head, and it's like,
and I'll tell you why that's there. It's because that happened to Kenneth Branagh, I believe, because this film is basically an autobiographical account, and real life generally isn't that well written because, you know, things don't play the same way they do on
the
screen.
problem is, I think if you wrote that mum character so that by the point when she does that, you believe that is something she would do. But the build up to that has not been.
She's got a lot of common sense.
So it just feels like a stupid,
moment.
Dangerous thing to do.
Yeah, and one of the big problems I think with the film is that there's just no it was obviously intended one way and then it became something else in the edit, because I don't think Kenneth Branagh knows what he's doing. But originally, Alan, now, did you think, wow, great restraint on the part of Kenneth Branagh not putting himself in this film?
Go on.
Well, originally they shot a load of stuff with him as an adult, very successful. His character, he was playing the kid as an adult,
Right.
as a very successful like actor or film director or whatever, who'd got out of Belfast and made a career for himself as a successful artist, and like it was gonna he was going back to Belfast, and it was gonna like intercut with the past, and then seeing him in the present. And I think without that, the film doesn't work, because so much of the film is about this kid escaping into the world of art and going off into his imagination to get away from the troubles. But then you never see enough of that. You never see any fallout of that. You never get the impression.
Anything.
Yeah, exactly. You just see him watching a film and it's in color and a close-up of his face when he's watching it, like, wow. And that's another thing. Half this film is from his perspective. It's clearly from the kid's perspective. There's like a very jarring argument between the parents that's shot entirely as a close-up on the kid's face with him watching them. Right, okay, good directorial decision if the film is from that kid's perspective. But then the next scene, it's like Judi Dench talking to Kieran Hines, and it's just like the kid's not even involved. It's nothing to do with him, and it's information that the kid wouldn't know, like wouldn't know how to process.
It was confused. It was messy. But
yeah, and that's again, I just don't think Kenneth Branagh is a good director. I've seen nothing to suggest ever that Kenneth Branagh is a good director. I've seen a lot of his films at this point. Artemis Fowl was dreadful. Thor he got away with because Kevin Feige doesn't let directors stray too far away from, the beaten path in Marvel.
But this was
Hamlet.
It was. I want to say I didn't dislike the film, okay, and I went into it. I was ready to dislike it. I'd seen the trailer and I was like, "Oh, this is going to be nonsense," and it managed to win me over a little bit. But that's not to say I really loved it either, because there are all these sort of fundamental issues with it. But there's kind of a nice heart to the story, and there's some nice moments.
Yeah.
The little kid is really good. I think the acting's really great all around.
The acting in this film is phenomenal. I think that in particular, Catriona Balfe, who plays the mother, she was the standout for me. I think she deserves to win the Oscar, but she's not even been nominated. But she's one of the best performances I've seen of the past year, frankly. I thought she was wonderful. I'm less impressed with Jamie Dornan, who I've heard so much about. He was fine.
He's doing all right. Yeah, he's fine.
He was fine. Nothing wrong with him. But she stood out to me like, oh, that is a good actor. Jamie Dornan was just there. Judi Dench is Judi Dench. Can't falter. Kieran Hines, I thought, was fantastic.
Yeah, he was nice, but he's always quite good, isn't he? No matter what he does.
Yeah. And Jude Hill, the little kid, for a little kid, pretty solid,
stuff.
Pretty good work. So yeah.
Yeah, and so there's like it's at the heart of it, it's a very emotional storyline. But my sort of problem with it was that I think setting it in this conflict in the Troubles was a mistake, because
I agree.
If you have this
it's
exactly the same story except without that backdrop, the family dynamics means more, because basically what the purpose of this is they have an opportunity to move to England, and it's like, well, do I want to leave my family? Do I want to leave my friends? This is everything I know. This is a difficult decision. Well, it's not a difficult decision when there's a fucking war, a literal war, on your literal doorstep, and your children.
I know, but it is a lot easier said than done. A lot of people obviously didn't move. The film tries to present both sides of the argument as if they're like equal, and it never. Because Kenneth Branagh obviously thinks leaving's the right thing to do because that's what his family did, and look at him now. And so you never get a solid argument for them staying ever. And so you're just waiting like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which there could be one. They could be like, well, no, I want to... I don't like what's happening around here, and I don't want to leave. I want to fix this place. I want to make this place what I like it, or anything like that. And also, I did like... So, it's sort of a bit of a spoiler for the ending, but... The granddad of the family, he like they don't want to leave because they've got family there. The grandma and granddad are there. The granddad dies, and then they're like, all right, we can fuck off now because we don't care about the grandma.
It's only one. It's half as many people to care about. Yeah.
Which
you're weighing it all up.
Just poor old Judi Dench, just like
I'm going to die on my own. I guess is what she's thinking. I feel similarly to you, Alan. When I went into this, I think a lot more positively. It was an advanced screening. It was kind of an early Oscar buzz film. I thought, all right, let's take one of the Oscar films off, like probably, and it'll be all right. And like, it's very watchable. Individual scenes are quite entertaining and charming, even if I think they are badly directed and take a lot of swings that are ill-advised. The acting is great, like I say. It was, I came out of it, and I think I gave it a 6 out of 10 when I came out. It was only after I really kind of dwelt on it, thought about it, really thought like, oh yeah, but it really doesn't know what the fuck it's trying to do, that I downgraded my rating to what I am going to give it in a minute. One more complaint. The thing that really took me out of the film, I know Eamon Holmes was upset about people of colour being there. I was upset by the fact that this family seemed to own like an ultra HD cathode ray television set with stunning pitch perfect reception at any time. Whenever he's watching Star Trek or a classic film on that screen, little crappy TV screen, it's gorgeous picture. It's like a 4K restoration of Star Trek on this shitty little TV. It was just like, what? All right. That's kind of, speaks to the heart of this film, I think, in that it's just superficial and inauthentic. Like, not enough thought has gone into making it feel real. And that's kind of, I think the film was clearly meant to be this cinema parody, so odes to the power of art, the people who had the courage to leave. Even there, that's too messy already. That's two things already, but you can make both those marry together. But then you remove that whole aspect of it, and it's just this mess of it's not really saying anything as it stands, because we never see anything to suggest that leaving was the right choice for this family. They just get on a bus and go, and that's the end. Yeah,
well, what did you rate it then?
I downgraded it to a 5.
Yeah, fair enough. I gave it a 7. It's pretty, I basically just, like, it kind of won me up to that. Like, I kind of went in with low expectations. Maybe that helped, ultimately. But, yeah, there was just enough kind of moments to it that I sort of enjoyed the experience, even though it's not a particularly great film. So a sort of low 7 seems fair.
Yeah. I don't like Kenneth Branagh anyway. I have to say, like, if ever a man has better encapsulated the word ponce.
Well, let's move on to our next film.
Yes.
But I've got a feeling Paolo is going to enjoy this one. Because
you make a pizza for me.
Yes.
Oh, I like a marinara sauce, spaghetti. Oh, no, is that what you have on your pizza, Paolo?
Spaghetti pizza.
Artichoke, hearts, and spaghetti on my pizza. Wow. Okay, that's a bold flavor.
Well, here's a bold flavor. This is licorice pizza.
Oh, licorice pizza. This gives me an idea for a pair of trousers. I'm going to make a pair of trousers that encapsulate the licorice pizza. Oh, yes, it's going to be black colors and browns and a little red and dashes of cheese and wonderful. Okay, well, you work away on your new line, your fall line over there, I guess, Paolo, and we'll talk about the film.
Okay. Well, we just talked about Belfast there, and Licorice Pizza. I went in with pretty much exactly the same feeling. I watched the trailer and I thought, I know exactly what this is going to be. The slight difference here is that this was exactly what I thought it was going to be. A random assortment of obviously autobiographical stories that don't hang together and has nothing at all to say.
Yeah, it's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but from Paul Thomas Anderson instead of Quentin Tarantino.
Which I also hated. And yes, all that Hollywood inside material.
Yeah, it's I grew up in LA, and I think that everyone else will find it as interesting to see what I went through as a teenager, as I find it interesting.
And I hated Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as well.
Yeah, you do. But I was going to say you like Paul Thomas Anderson more than Quentin Tarantino. I don't think you do. I think you like Quentin Tarantino more than you like Paul Thomas Anderson. Yeah,
in the 90s, I did.
Because you hated his last effort that we spoke about, Phantom Thread. Yeah,
at least it wasn't as boring as that. Yeah.
Well, I thought Phantom Thread was masterfully put together. It just wanted to be a film that I found quite boring and uninteresting. I'm not going to say that about Licorice Pizza, because I think Licorice Pizza is, very self-indulgent, and it therefore isn't like masterfully constructed. It's just a rambling assortment of things that kind of evoke a feeling. But I will say now, I didn't hate this film. I think it sounds like you're going to come down harsh on it.
Yeah, well, the worst example for it for me is at one point. So our main protagonist kid, this sort of 15-year-old kid, he's just going about his daily life, and the police knock him to the ground, drag him off. He gets arrested. Nobody knows what's going on.
They don't
tell. Yeah, there's no build up to this. They don't tell him why he's been arrested.
Well, we've spent about 20 minutes already on a scene, 10 minutes, let's say, on this scene already, setting up this scene. Not setting up police are going to come and get him. Setting up, we're going to a trade show. We're going to sell this product. I'm launching a business. Products. And out of nowhere, the police tackle him and drag him away.
And there's all sorts of things going on, because there's some things that he's doing that there's probably dodgy, some illegality going on. Like why? But why have they being so brutal with him? They drag him off to the police station, and the main woman in it, she's running after him. She's scared. She doesn't know what's happening. And then they bring someone out and they go, oh, no, that's not him. And they basically just let him go. And they don't even say, oh, sorry, mate, wrong, mistaken identity, you can go. They just sort of unhandcuff him and send him on his way. And the only purpose it serves is it's kind of a little bit of a bonding moment between these two characters. So she obviously realizes that she's worried about him or something.
But the film doesn't even do that with it. It doesn't.
Well, they have a moment afterwards, they hug and stuff. But then they
don't even go back to the scene that we spent 10 minutes on before. So it means that scene went nowhere as well.
Yeah. But that's obviously just happened to someone. Either Paul Thomas Anderson, that guy who this character is mainly based on, that it seems I can't remember his name.
James Gandolfini.
No.
Is that not who he's based on?
No, it's I can't remember his name because he's not huge.
Oh, sorry, not James Gandolfini. God, what is it? It's your man, Philip Seymour.
Well, no, that's not him either. No.
Is it not? Cooper Hoffman, that's his kid, isn't it?
Yeah, but it doesn't mean it's based on his...
Yeah, it is.
No, it doesn't.
I was getting confused because James Gandolfini's kid just played James Gandolfini in another film set in the past, and that's what I was thinking of.
But anyway, this... It's obviously just a story that someone told him, or be it a personal experience a friend had. It's obviously it felt like, oh, this is probably something that really happened, but that doesn't make it a good for a film, and it's certainly not relevant to anything that's happening here.
How do you feel about the nepotism on show in this film? Because I mean, Cooper Hoffman's not the only kid of a famous
Cooper
Sasha
Hoffman,
Spielberg's in there very briefly.
Cooper Hoffman is in there. He's Philip Seymour Hoffman's son. I really, really like Philip Seymour Hoffman. Obviously,
your favorite actor, I believe.
Yeah, obviously Paul Thomas Anderson worked with him a lot, and he knows this Cooper Hoffman kid. He's watched him grow up, right? Cooper Hoffman has no other credits and didn't particularly want to be an actor, from what I can tell.
Yeah, from what I've heard, Paul Thomas Anderson really kind of strong-armed him into sort of tricked him into auditioning for the film, and then they developed enough of the film together that he was like, all right.
But I like him. I think he's a good enough actor for what he's doing here. I have to see more stuff before I judge too much. But he's perfectly good in the film.
Yeah.
The problem with the character is he's a smug little twat, and I think we're supposed to like him. The problem with the female character is and then the main female character, she's quite aggressive and unpleasant.
Alana Haim. I liked her.
We're supposed to like her
a lot
as well,
more than. Yeah, I think she was pretty alright. I didn't think, what
but
unpleasant.
She's very aggressive a lot of the time.
Yeah, because of fucking this 15-year-old keeps trying to turn her into a pedo and ultimately succeeds.
That's not what she's angry about, though. She's like at home. She's angry and sort of shouting
because she has a shitty family life. Her dad's abusive and unpleasant. We see that early on. Her dad is really nasty to her, and her siblings are
No, they're not. They're not that bad. And if that character was 15, I would not even question it. But she's 25. And if the point we're making is, well, she's still kind of got this 15-year-old mentality, that's why she hangs out with a 15-year-old. Okay, but it doesn't make me like her as a person. Yeah. Yeah. And then the male character is 15, but he's got the mentality of a 30-year-old entrepreneur, he's always out trying to make a buck.
Can we get definitely not racist Liam Neeson to weigh in on the I know he's more of a race guy, but there's some interesting age
Go on then. What's the problem here?
Going on here? Okay, so we got a 15-year-old boy interested in a woman in her 20s. Pursues her throughout the film. She says, no, that's statutory rape, so no thanks.
I tell you, I got me cash. I've been walking up and down the streets of...
All right, and at the end of the film, spoilers, he does basically succeed. They do have a little snog, and the implication is, all right, they're going to be together now. And I kind of thought at some point in this film he's going to turn 80. We're going to have a time skip. He's going to become old enough, and then... No, it doesn't happen. He's still 15. I think they state quite clearly near the end he's still 15.
So just to be clear then, it's the young fella, he's the young one, the lady's a bit older.
Yeah, she's in her 20s.
Right, that's fine then, yes.
All right.
If it was the other way around, I'd be disgusted.
All right, good to know.
Different
clearly,
standards, so I don't know how it works. But...
Clearly, that's how the Academy agrees.
That's how society works.
I would like to read again verbatim for you my little review of this film, Alan. There are certain things you can't imagine or even envision until they happen, and then they're so perfect, so inspired, that it's difficult to remember life before they existed. John C. Reilly as Herman Munster is one of those things.
I should have known that was coming. A cameo, barely a cameo.
Talking about our favourite actors, my favourite there as John C. Reilly as Herman Munster. Oh,
it's your perfect combination.
I need more of that.
That's the shame. He's on screen for about 15 seconds.
Less than. It's like a tracking shot walks past him. He goes, "No, I'm really Herman Munster. I am," and then that's it. And it was the voice that did it. I was sort of like, "Oh, who's that? Oh, it's John C. Reilly." Yeah. By the time I'd even realised it was John C. Reilly, Cooper Hoffman was off at his mattress pitch area. All right, so it sounds like you hate this film. I'm a lot more forgiving of
hate is probably a bit strong, but let me ask you about... I just think it was a mess, really, and not interesting enough to get away with it.
I don't think it was a mess because I don't think it was trying to be anything more than just a meandering load of nothing that doesn't really build or mean anything.
That's not enough for me. That's not what I want from
I know, but I think it's perhaps lazy.
Oh, it felt so self-indulgent.
Tell you who I did like.
Go on.
John Michael Higgins.
Oh God, that made me laugh, but it felt out of place even for a film that is essentially comedic.
Yeah.
But I guess that's based on a real thing.
I don't know. He's often my favourite guy in things. It turns out, sort of a dark horse performer. He plays the owner of a Japanese restaurant who goes through various Japanese girlfriends, if not wives.
They're supposed to be wives.
And when he tries to talk to them, he just does a really sort of racist Japanese accent in English. It's just...
it took me by surprise when he did it the first time, and I was just like, I can't believe it.
Paolo, are you trying to speak Italian? Is that why you... I don't know, I'm trying to insinuate. Okay, no, just checking. Yeah, it's a totally meandering, self-indulgent film. Can't really defend it, but I think it does capture a sense of teenage naivete, perhaps. That kind of
there's moments
sense
of that.
Yeah,
there's moments of that, particularly with the male character, and there's little bits that were like, oh, okay, but it just it never molded together into anything.
Yeah. So I give it a 7 out of 10.
I gave it a 5 out of 10. And like that proof. Like I didn't hate it, I just didn't like it, and it felt, I think it's
very long,
lazy.
for what it is.
Like make a fucking proper film instead of
Yeah.
just throwing a load of shit together, a load of sketches together.
Yeah, but you don't like it when he does that as well, Paul Thomas Anderson. He did that with Phantom Thread, and you didn't like it. You prefer it when he just throws a load of sketches together. Boogie Nights. That's your favourite film he's done, isn't it?
But that's still telling a story, and you managing to work an ensemble cast
Just
there and still
about.
making it relevant. Okay, so next up, Sol, we have the next one I saw was a Netflix one. It is The Power of the Dog.
Okay, I was going to try and predict how you feel about Power of the Dog, but I can't tell how you're going to fall with this one. This is the one film this year. Actually, there's maybe two, but this is the one film in particular this year where I can't tell if you're going to despise it or love it, because
I know why you think that. I can understand that.
Yeah, because
looking back, I see the same thing.
On one hand, this is an incredibly tedious, dull film where very little happens.
Yeah,
and that's a good thing for you. That's why this is confusing.
Yeah.
Can I tell you something and I'll gauge your reaction?
Oh yeah, go on.
This is the favourite to win. Okay. Good. Good.
Honestly,
I agree.
Not to give too much away, but none of these films deserve to be in the pantheon of Oscar winners today. not to get too far ahead, but
there are maybe two films nominated this year that deserve nominations under in a typical year, in
but
a
not
decent
to win.
year. Yeah, not to win. They would be kind of weaker nominations, but. Yeah, this is the favourite to win. Although I wouldn't be surprised if there's an upset. Personally, I think it
can't be a very. It's not exactly a one race, is it? There's got to be a few.
I think it's all to play for. Yeah, out of the ones we've already spoken about, I think West Side Story could sneak in there. And
I can't see that winning though.
I don't think it will, but I don't know.
Not for Best Picture.
Well, there's no real strong winner, there's no clear-cut thing to get behind, so it's all to play for. But yeah, Power of the Dog is currently the favourite, has been the favourite for a while, which I think might work against it because people might get bored, like complacent with it as like the winner.
It does. It's one of those films that feels a bit of the safe option, but then
if you like tedious, dull
there isn't
shit,
a outlandish option here, is there? Maybe Don't Look Up. But yeah, what I did like about the film is that it really sets up this guy as a total arsehole.
Yeah,
and then you just start to go, okay, he's just a bit rough around the edge. He's in that life, and when you see him differently, it's not so bad. You can kind of see where he's coming from. There's a bit more history there. Kirsten Dunst's character is kind of the opposite. You feel sorry for her at first, and then you think, oh well, she's just kind of demolishing herself, she's self-destructing, and I quite liked that kind of flow, and you never really knew who to root for, and then the ending is a little bit of a kind of kicker, and not to give too much away, it's a bit of a kind of like, I kind of like that. I like the kind of, it wasn't a very clear, not a clear narrative. I like a clear narrative, but it wasn't a very clear moral journey, and I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
But yes, quite tedious in telling it.
It's Jane Campion, right?
Yeah.
Now,
who I have a complicated relationship with, I think.
Well,
for the reasons that I see in this film, there's always some nice stuff, and then it just always feels like a lot of kind of arty nonsense for no real benefit.
Well, I've seen one of her films, and it's not The Piano, but my gauge on... Sorry, one of her films prior to this, I should clarify. My take on her work based on these two films is that she just makes very unnecessarily dull, long films where nothing happens about people in the past.
Yeah, I tell you what I get from her, and I did get it from this film as well. It's atmosphere. You get a very atmospheric sense. You kind of really... You have to let yourself kind of go into the film and lose yourself in it. But is that enough? I don't know.
Can I be a little bit
racist?
No. Although have you heard Sam Elliott's Ruffled Feathers?
No, is Sam Elliott the man with the moustache?
You know Sam Elliott, yeah.
Sam
Yeah,
Elliott.
the guy with the moustache.
I'm Sam Elliott, and I'm in the Wild West. I'm a real cowboy.
Well, he doesn't like the power of the dog. He was on Mark Maron, and he was like basically saying what a load of fucking shit, hated it. And then Mark Maron was like, why? And he was like, gay cowboys. Son, I'm a cowboy, and I tell you what, they ain't gay.
They ain't gay.
So,
well, he is a proper cowboy. Like he was definitely in the Wild West 130 years ago.
Yeah, he was.
He definitely knows what he's talking about. I don't know if gay cowboys should be a particularly controversial.
Well, not now, not in a post Brokeback Mountain.
Yeah, but
world,
anytime you get a load of men, stuck together with no women around,
exactly. Stuff's gonna happen.
Needs must, even if you don't particularly care for
exactly.
it. But also, I don't think this. I think saying this is about being gay is obviously a bit of a mislead.
Well, it felt to me like the subplot, right?
I think it's about
that kid and his arc is about being. I mean, you can read it more broadly than that.
Yeah, I think it's more about feeling out of place and not fitting in your world, in the same way that your Benedict Cumberbatch character has kind of completely lost himself in this world to get away from a world that he's obviously come from. With his brother is a little bit kind of more refined and everything. He went to Yale or whatever they said he'd done. It
is a bit weird to be like, well, he's gay and that's why he's different. It's like he is chopping up animals and like looking at their entrails and stuff. Is that what you associate with homosexuality? I mean,
well, that's what I mean. The only gayness is that they get on quite well. And occasionally look at each other in a bit funny way, which is obviously deliberate. Like it's certainly not just an accidental subtext. But
he's also a bit of a sissy boy in their kind of parlance. He gets in a bit of trouble with the big masculine cowboys who don't like how effeminate he is and so on. So I think that's also a big part of it. Can I just say some positives?
Go on.
So I'm not just slagging this film off. Beautiful, very very nicely shot.
Yeah,
which I think is typical of Jane Campion, isn't it?
Well, I was reading something where she'd worked with her and the cinematographer got together and worked for a year planning out the shots before they even filmed anything.
It's not that good looking.
Exactly. It's just like, yeah, come on.
It's just like a nice landscape. I'm not being funny. You film it in New Zealand. That's where they shot this. Pretty hard to not end up with a nice landscape or two in your film, really. That's another thing Sam Elliott didn't like. That they made.
It wasn't.
They dared to make a Western that wasn't in the West. Yeah, that's unbelievable that they would do that. Right? They'd never do that in the olden days. Set around where the Western not being set in the West. Anyway, the other thing I'd like to praise is a performance.
Which one?
Can you guess? The standout for me.
I think the standout for you is going to be Kirsten Dunst.
Yeah, Kirsten Dunst. I thought she was wonderful.
Yeah. I haven't seen her for 5 years. I looked up. The last thing I'd seen her in was 5 years ago. The last thing before that was 5 years before. I haven't seen much of her recently, but
well done though, because the one performance people are fixating on is Cody Schmidt McPhee.
Yeah,
who I thought was
he's solid. Yeah, it's
fine.
good. He's just kind of playing weirdo. He does a good job of it. I can't really.
And then second down, Benedict Cumberbatch, who again he's fine. There's no bad acting in the film. But Kirsten Dunst was the one performance that really stood out to me. Like, oh, that's good acting.
Yeah. Can I just deal with Benedict Cumberbatch for a moment? Okay, he's playing a hard-bitten Western cowboy. Okay, first of all, Benedict, that is not your casting. Let's not pretend it is. And so he does this thing where he goes and lives as a cowboy for 3 months, and then he plays the role. I was reading stuff about it, they all had to refer to him by his character name and all that bullshit. And I hate that.
Isn't he called? Isn't he basically Phil Burbank is his character? Isn't that's what's the guy from Groundhog Day called? Phil Ryerson. Oh no, Ned Ryerson.
You're thinking of Truman Burbank. That's who you're thinking.
Phil. I've only gone and combined the Truman Show with Groundhog Day. There's an idea for a film. Right? Truman Show meets Groundhog Day.
But yeah, I hate it when actors take themselves too seriously. It's just like,
Well,
for fuck's sake. And Benedict Cumberbatch is very, very guilty of this. And I don't particularly like Benedict Cumberbatch as an actor in general, I must admit. I don't think he's a bad actor. I just don't like his presence. I don't like his style particularly. And because of all this kind of stuff, he just winds me up. And so having him as a sort of your central charismatic role didn't win me over, I'm afraid.
Do you know to get into character for Avengers Infinity War, he actually projected himself forward into 14,605 different futures.
Well, there you go. That's commitment to the part, isn't it?
He's all right. Look,
it's a fine performance, but it's just like, grow up, will you? You make pretend for a living.
I think
do it well. You don't have to live it.
I think it's a valid approach to acting at a certain level. If you get results, I don't think there's anything in Benedict Cumberbatch's performance that suggests he, when I watch Daniel Day-Lewis in something, typically I go, all right, I can see it on screen. You
feel like he's lost himself in that character.
Yeah.
Okay. I still think it's stupid and childish, but
But it's
getting
results there. Whereas Benedict Cumberbatch in this,
it's Benedict Cumberbatch doing a sort of quite poor American accent and being dirty.
I thought he was fine, but I didn't get anything in this that I didn't get from Benedict Cumberbatch in Star Trek Into Darkness or Starter for 10. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, my own biases aside on him, I
like
particularly
Benedict
care
Cumberbatch.
for the film. You like him, do you?
Yeah.
Well.
I do.
Well, should we take this opportunity to talk about acting Oscars, seeing as though there's a lot of them on this one? We're halfway through.
Yeah,
do you want to run him down? I don't really know what's going on with that.
Right.
Do you want to run down for me? I'll see which ones I've seen.
Let's drip this in for the rest of the episode, but let's start now with actor in a leading role.
Okay,
all right,
go on.
Actor in a leading role.
Yep.
Andrew Garfield, your favourite.
What for?
Spider-Man. No, Tick Tick Boom.
I was going to say, what the fuck are you talking about?
Tick Tick Boom, where he plays the guy who made Rent. Not he made Rent, like he made enough money to pay his rent. The musical about AIDS.
Okay.
And then he died shortly afterwards.
I haven't seen that, so I can't comment on that one. But I have not been impressed with Andrew Garfield so far in his career. But I can believe he's done something.
He's not going to win you over with Tick Tick Boom. I tell you now, it's an annoying film for musical theatre nerds, of which I am one. So if I'm finding it a bit overbearing, but I think there's a lot of goodwill for him this year. I think Spider-Man's probably genuinely. I think that probably gave him a little boost. He probably would have been nominated anyway, but I
feel sorry for him.
I think it's that classic thing of we can't acknowledge him for the fun movie. So anyway, so he's there. Solid performance. It's a musical as well, so we had to sing. Benedict Cumberbatch, Power of the Dog.
Okay. I don't know who else has been nominated, but this performance in this film for this actor at this point in his career feels like we're going to give him an Oscar kind of moment. Do you know what I mean? Even though it's not necessarily the best characters ever played, it's just like, okay, yeah, he's at the right time. He's a big name actor. We're going to sort of celebrate his career a little bit.
Well, he's not the favourite to win. Benedict Cumberbatch. It'll be a bit of an upset.
Well, but I think if it's not a strong year, it's sort of like, let's give it to Benedict Cumberbatch. Just safe pair of hands. You're not going to be embarrassed.
Well, I think it is quite a weak year, as we've established. It goes beyond the Best Picture films. It's everything here is kind of a total shit show. But yeah, we've got Benedict Cumberbatch. Then we have Denzel Washington for the tragedy of Macbeth.
Okay, I haven't seen that, but that feels like a Meryl Streep.
He's doing Shakespeare, isn't he?
It's like, okay, look, we can put him in. It's safe. Yeah,
but he does Shakespeare about as well as you're going to do Shakespeare.
But Denzel Washington, it's a safe bet. You can't,
exactly.
No one's going to moan about that.
Exactly. He's
not white, which is nice.
Yeah, exactly.
That's always good. They like
that. Next up, Javier Bardem, Being the Ricardos.
Okay, I haven't seen.
Not a lead role, but he is nominated in the lead role category. He actually gives he actually gives a pretty good performance in a fairly average, not Aaron Sorkin's best work film. There's some really nice moments of of emotion in there. Yeah, I'm not upset that he's there, you know, even though
that just feels like a safe choice as well. Obviously, there wasn't many to choose from.
Oh yeah, they're just making up the numbers, yeah. And now, favourite to win it, Alan? Can you guess?
Leonardo DiCaprio?
No, Will Smith.
Oh, of course, for that.
So let's not get ahead of ourselves because we will be discussing King Richard.
Yeah, we'll come on to that. But again, I can see that as a kind of like,
he's the favourite to win.
Will Smith, let's put him in the books.
Yeah,
no one's going to be worried about that. I can see that.
Honestly, I think right now, I think it's kind of sort of a toss-up between Benedict, Denzel, Will Smith. Now, no one's watched The Tragedy of Macbeth because it's Shakespeare and it was on Apple Plus, so that's him out of the running. And then they're not going to give it to like the whitest man in the world called Benedict over Will Smith, black guy who's maybe due for one.
They might do as a bit of a swing back over the last few years, like just kind of, okay, well, we just want to let everyone know that we're still here, the old white men.
Do you want to know who I would? Yeah, in fact, fuck it. I don't care if you want to know or not. I'm going to give you my own personal acting nominations, Alan. Who I would nominate, right?
I guess I'm just going to sit here and take it.
Yeah. I'm going to do them in order from worst to best, right?
But this is what, a top 5? So even the worst is you think it's good.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Least good, 5th best to best.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Bob Odenkirk, Nobody. Can't go wrong with Bob Odenkirk. He brings a lot to that. Ralph Fiennes, The Kingsman. Not the best film, but, you know, he's solid in it. This is a spoiler for something coming up, but Hidetoshi Nishijama for Drive My Car.
Yeah.
Solid. Lakeith Stanfield for Judas and the Black Messiah, which was, of course, a 2021 film, but qualified for the previous Oscars, so, you know.
I was going to say, didn't he get nominated for that last?
He did, yeah, but it came out 2021, so I don't know what they're playing at. Stephen Graham, Boiling Point. He's who I'd give it to.
Well, I mean, you can't go wrong with Stephen Graham, can you?
Yeah, it's a good Stephen Graham as well, you know. He's always good, but it's a Stephen Graham
Boiling
showcase.
Point in it. Everyone's getting fucking hot in here, aren't they?
Oh, you're not far wrong from the content of that film. It goes up and down. It goes up a little bit like, what the fuck are you doing to, you know, I'm sorry, mate, I'm sorry, you know, it's just getting a bit much.
Always doing the emotional bits. All right, well, let's just tie up Power of the Dog then. Let's give it a rating.
Disappointed with the lack of dog in the film. There is a dog in the film for less than a second, I think, when all the men are playing in the water, skinny dipping.
Definitely nothing gay about that.
The dead rabbit gets more screen time than the dog, so, you know, don't lie to me about there being a dog in your movie. 4 out of 10.
Yeah.
I was going to give it a 5, right? Watching it all the way through, I was like, God, this is boring. And then I just got to the end and I was just like, you've just wasted 2 hours of my life with that. It's just like, what you... And I was just really annoyed. 4 out of 10. Fucking hated it.
Yeah, I didn't... I feel basically... I gave it a 5. Let's put it that way. I didn't hate it, but it was... I enjoyed aspects of it. I enjoyed the kind of atmospheric nature of it. I do generally enjoy Jane Campion, but it's always just too far the other way. It's just like, yeah... In fact, every film that has been made in the last 4 years, it's like, let's just take 40 minutes out of this, okay?
I agree.
We just
these nominees this year as well,
dragging things out, and it's not necessary.
If there is a consistent through line with this year's nominees,
yeah,
take half an hour out of your film, all of you, minimum. In some cases, take an hour and a half out of your film. There you go. That's a transition for the next film, Alan.
Okay, let's just use that and go straight into... Okay, so...
Even you, Paolo, even you could do with taking an hour out of your fucking Gucci epic. Oh, yeah, well, you take an hour out of my film and you might lose a bit of Paolo. I am hardly the important part of the film, am I? I am extraneous, and I know it. That's a fair point, Paolo. We want to... All right, Dune. Dune.
Okay.
Dune, to pronounce it correctly, as the original author wrote it. I'm assuming it's written by an American guy. I don't actually know.
Now, you're obviously going to moan that this is too long, Sol, and you would be right to moan about that. But here's what I thought, right? Here's what I came across. Because paradoxically, yes, it is too long, but also it needs more. This should be a TV series. Why is it a film when it should be a 10 to 12 hour series?
Can I just preface this? Look, right? Dune has gone down really well. People love it.
It hasn't, has it?
People love it. Now, I'm aware Alan, of course you're going to hate it, right? But me too, I also hate it. So let me just preface this by going, look, it's unfortunate we don't have a... what's the opposite of a dissenting opinion? A assenting opinion? Assenting. Yeah. We don't have an assenting opinion to counter this. But...
No, we do. No, we want a dissenting opinion.
Oh, you're right. You're right. We want a dissenting opinion. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I hated this film, Alan. It made me furiously angry, and on numerous levels. Now, the obvious one is anyone who listens to this podcast will be well aware at this point. All right, story structure, that's my jam. Yeah. And you take a big book and you chop it in half. What do you get? You get a film with no ending. You get a film with no structure. You get a beginning and a middle. And that isn't a story. And that's what Dune is. And so that's my biggest issue. But you know what? Taking aside the fact that some people seem to have very different concepts about what constitutes a film or a story, or, you know, they're going to go, well, it doesn't mean anything yet, but part 2 will make it all make sense. And they have now greenlit it, even though they hadn't initially. And let's take all that, put it to one side. I don't think this is a particularly good film outside of that. Like,
well, let me say, this is a fantasy nonsense. It's the worst type of fantasy as well, because it's like Star Wars type fantasy. It's pretending to be sci-fi. Yeah, it's pretending to be sci-fi. So I was ready to hate it, and I went in. I knew it was going to be too long. I knew it wasn't going to make sense. Then when it first started, it says Dune Part 1. I was like, oh, behave yourself. So that annoyed me straight away. But let me say, right, as much as I was ready to hate this, it didn't exactly grasp me, but it maintained my attention. I went to see it at the cinema, which I think helped, rather than sitting in my bedroom.
Yeah, me too. And I felt like Timothée Chalamet being forced to stick his hand inside that box that generates pure pain and has to withstand it.
Well, don't get me wrong, so I'm not saying I liked it, but I was won over by the visuals. I do like Denis Villeneuve's look. I don't particularly like his films, but I think he creates a great visual world.
See, I do like his films. I generally like his visuals. I thought this film was really lacking in that front because... Well, the cinematography I thought was dog shit. People have been going on about how incredible it looks on that front, but I kind of assumed, it's going to be, what's his name out of Blade Runner? Roger Deakins, was that who he shot that with? Is that the right guy?
Roger Deakins is dead, isn't he?
Is that why he didn't use him for this one? It was a new cinematographer, and so the main point of this film, right, is that it's hot. It's really hot. It's overbearingly hot. And every aspect of the film is designed to kind of drum that home to you. But it doesn't look hot in terms of how it's shot. It actually looks quite cool and drab. Yeah. And
should have put a yellow filter on it, is that what you're saying?
Well, they just kind of put a brown filter on it.
Yeah, it's sand, isn't it?
Yeah, but it felt cool. It never felt hot, and I should get a sense of heat from your film. Like, it didn't... I don't even remember any shots of, like, heat haze or anything. Not to...
I know what you mean. Film, I guess it was the scale of it, the epic scale of it. It won me over on that sense. Well, all the ships and stuff. I liked all the nice little design of the stuff, and
I think
so on that level, I don't like when they just have all the silly made up names.
I don't.
And all that stuff. Oh, all the silly made up names, but the chosen one, like the supreme being who's going to save the world, is called Paul.
Chosen ones in this day and age. Isn't it?
He's called Paul. His friend's called
Duncan. It's like the Beatles, isn't it?
It's like behave yourself. Come on.
This film felt like watching Blade Runner 2049, but it's a special cut of the film that Jared Leto has made himself, where every shot has Jared Leto in it. Hey, that sounds like a good movie. Do you know what I mean, though? It was Blade Runner, but just, like, a bit shit. They shitted it up.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I was kind of all right with it. I think the actors were all doing a solid job in the silliness. And
did you? I mean, I don't know if you're as bothered about story structure as me. Obviously, we've got a problem here, but, like, not only is there no ending, but there's no conflict in the film for the first 90 minutes. Like,
I think I got engrossed in it. I think I was kind of like, okay, what's going to happen next with this guy, this one, and what's going to happen to this person? Like, there's not a lot going on here really, but it grasped me in that sense. But like I said, I think this should be a TV series. Why isn't it just like in hour blocks and then it has kind of like, here's your setup, here's the thing. It needs that time and space to really drag it out. It's a big story.
Yeah, they'd probably go budget, but I think in this day and age with them spending billions, literally I think billions on Lord of the Rings TV show coming out.
And Jason Momoa is in it. I noticed he was a bit out of season.
Jason Momoa,
obviously he's not on his on the right cycle at the moment. He's going to have to get back into shape for the next Aquaman, I guess.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Did you know he's conspicuously had his shirt on the whole time?
Yeah,
you don't get Jason Momoa to keep his shirt on, do you?
Yeah. Especially in the desert, you think you'd want to take it off, cool down, but.
I like the little boy though. I like him.
Yeah. You know, acting
Oscar
overall.
Isaac, I like him.
Not going to complain about the acting.
Oh, I tell you, who was a nice little surprise? Stellan Skarsgård.
Was he playing the Worm Man?
The Worm Man. I don't know if he's a Worm Man. He's a big fat kind of.
Was that Stellan
Colonel
Skarsgård?
Kurtz style man. Yeah, the filming.
He's a big worm.
He's not a worm.
I thought he was a worm till initially because
he doesn't use his legs.
Initially, he floats around and he has very, 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 very long trousers that stay on the ground, so it looks like he's a worm. But then later on, you see him crawling on the ceiling, and it was like, oh, that's not as good, is it?
I see Dave Bautista's got another job as well. That's nice for him.
Yeah, I like Dave Bautista.
Really?
Yeah, he's trying and he's doing all right. Yeah, but he's got a good look. That's half the battle.
Got that wrinkly head.
Yeah. I mean, see, I just didn't get into like the sets and the costumes and things like I think you did because
it's not my usual thing, but it did kind of. It helped take me into the world. I think that's what it was. I think it was a good world building.
Well, I didn't get that because at the end of the day, I've seen Star Wars before. It came out in 1977, and look, like I get it. The book Dune was written in 1965, but we're talking about June 2021. Star Wars came out 50 years ago. Like, can you just do that now? It's been done.
Yeah.
It's not an excuse to go, well, the book was, I don't care. Don't make it then. It's irrelevant. There's nothing new to say, then don't make it.
Yeah, I mean, I have no interest in watching the next one.
The science is wonky as hell in this film as well. Can we add that? Like, there's so much dodgy science. Like, if you're going to spend hours of your film getting into wonky how stuff works and the world building and blah, 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 blah. Oh, this character and the politics and blah, 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 blah. At least have your science make vague sense. They've got and I don't just mean from like a, science that didn't exist in the 60s standpoint. I mean just like a basic logic point of view, right? They have a big laser gun that they use to chop a door open when they're like, these bad guys come into the castle and start trying to get the main kid and his mates, don't they? Instead of just using that laser to shoot people, cut them in half, they fight each other one by one with daggers. Now, look,
they don't seem to have projectile weapons here.
I get that they have a force field on people in this film, and if you move too quickly, the force field will like stop you. You have to move slowly to get through it. All right, I get that. So maybe a laser cannon can't pass through a force field because it's light, speed of light, pretty fast. But then why are they shielding from it like it's a threat, and they're scared of it? And that's a perfect example of why this film is bullshit, because every scene pretty much has something in it like that where I was just like, well, what? And every bit of fucking peril in this film is solved by another character appearing in the scene, Deus Ex Machinaing themselves into frame, holding their hand out, saving them. That's not good writing. Yeah. It's boring. It's bad enough to do that once, let alone every single time. And it's yet another film about a fucking privileged, wealthy, royal family aristocracy. Why should I care about the magical bloodline being preserved? I don't give a shit. Wipe them all out and start again. I don't care.
Why don't they why don't they do a subplot about how it's not a birthright, you can you can earn it, but then completely eradicate that in the next film?
Well, I've heard in the next film that I've heard apparently based on the book from people who've read it that the story isn't that, but the first film, part one, certainly is, because there's nothing to bring it together because it's half a film. And the other problem with that is there's no subtext here. There's no meaning or purpose that I could put together whatsoever with this film. And the best I can gather from reading about it is maybe there's some degree of subtext and purpose in Dune as a story, but you need the second half for it to be there. So
it's not a film,
all we have is a load of setup with no
half a film.
decoder. It's not just half a film, it's half a work of art. It's just a load of pretentious waffle about sandworms.
How do they get so big, those sandworms, when there's so little
God.
food?
I suggest, Alan, anyone interested in that, just watch Tremors and sync it up to a Philip Glass album, right? Save yourself 90 minutes. Be a lot more fun.
Tremors is so much better than this.
It's a much better film. Hated it, thought it was really boring, thought the characters were stupid, didn't like any of them. One or two scenes were interesting. I kind of like the bit where the guy spat on the floor and then the guy went to get his dagger and then the other guy was like, oh, no, that's an honour because of the water.
Yes. All right, look, what did you rate it?
Oh, I hated it, Alan. This is my least favourite film of this batch. 4 out of 10 again.
Well, I mean, I didn't hate it. I was like I said, I just kind of got involved in it. I didn't particularly care, but it was okay. I was all right with it, and then it just kept going and kept going. So I was sort of on a kind of, hey, this is a fine kind of 7 out of 10 sort of thing, and then just like 40 minutes later, it's okay. Well, we're down to a 6 now. Are you going to keep going? And then, so I was at a 6 really, but didn't have an ending, so I had to chop a point off for that. I gave it a 5 out of 10.
I mean, I kind of did the same thing. Yeah, I think I started at maybe a 6 or a 7 and just got worn down to a 5, and then it didn't have an ending, and then 4. All right, well, fuck Dune. I hate it. Okay, so next up, Alan.
Next one I watched was Don't Look Up.
Oh no, what's up there? Why are you telling me no looking up?
There's a comet.
Oh no, I cannot see.
Yeah, you can't see it yet, but you will. Give it about 6 months. It'll be there. And that's when you'll know it's a real
Super
problem.
Mario Galaxy! Woohoo! Oh, he's just he's just jumped out the window, Alan. I think you've triggered something in his in his head there. Oh well. Bye then, Paolo. Don't Look Up. I am a big, well-established, I think, on the podcast at this point, fan of
Adam McKay. Yeah. But this is not a sort of retelling of reality. It is more fictional than his last couple of things in this style.
It's a weird straddling the line between the last couple of films he's made that legitimized him, The Big Short and Vice, and the early part of his career, making Step Brothers, Anchorman, the other guys. It's a weird straddling the line, and because he legitimized himself first and included a political message in his film, somehow this incredibly broad comedy is now like a heavy-hitting awards contender. Yeah,
which is obviously, and because of the actors he's managed to pull in for it as well, you know, it's kind of your heavy.
It's not a bad thing. Like I feel like more films like this should be in the conversation, but they're not.
Well, do you know what? Right, one of my complaints about this year's bunch of Oscar nominees is just like, can't we have fun? Does everything have to be fucking miserable and really serious? Like, not even if it's about a sad thing, but just really sincere. Like, oh my God, I'm a cowboy, and it's so serious that I'm a cowboy. And I just can't, like, especially when you watch them all kind of in close proximity, it's just brutal to deal with it. So a little bit of comedy, a little bit of lightheartedness should leaven that.
It's also a very bleak film.
But that's the problem is that, there's a paradox here for me in that it is both
too silly to take seriously, too serious to take comedically.
It's satire delivered to the face with a baseball bat, but also kind of too close to the truth to be not just completely depressing.
I mean, look, I enjoyed this film. It was nice, easy, just to pop it on, sit through it. Nice cast, having fun. Some amusing jokes in there, not all of them. But I agree that there's big big, like, fundamental problems with what it's trying to... Well, not with what it's trying to do, but how it goes about trying to do it. And I'm all right with being beaten over the head with a political agenda, but it felt like it kind of hit a note and then just kept hitting it. You know, it didn't...
Yeah.
And it did... Right, it hit a few notes across the runtime, but... It didn't feel like it changed it up enough over its 2.5-hour runtime.
I agree with that, actually. That's not how I'd phrased it myself, but yeah, it's just the same gag over and over again.
The other problem is, like, every 10 years someone makes this film. Someone makes a comedy about a comet destroying Earth, and last time round it was Seeking a Friend for the End of the World, which, you know, This is better than that. I'll go that far. But the one back in the 90s before that was Last Night, Canadian film.
Oh, yeah.
Don't know if you're familiar with it. Beautiful, poignant film.
I don't know if I've seen it. Yeah.
I love it. It's one of my favourites. It's a genuinely really, really emotionally beautiful film about, you know, how people respond in the wake of the inevitable end of the world, and, you know, the people who sort of try and forge connections because they want to connect with someone in their last moments, and the people who kind of avoid that. It's also very funny, I think.
But this film isn't really about that. We get that in the last sort of 20 minutes, and it feels a bit stuck on, and it just gives us a little bit of emotional resolution to our characters. But the film's not about that. The comet is a MacGuffin, really. It's a threat that people will look straight in the face and then go, "No." And it's like pretty obviously just going like, "Hey, look, that's what you're doing, society."
Yeah, I mean, my point really is just that it was difficult for me to get fully on board with a film where the whole time through I was going, "Oh, I wish I was watching that other film that's better about the same subject matter." But no, yeah, and it's a climate change allegory. I don't know if you were aware of that, Alan, but that's what it's doing.
Yeah, but you could just as easily...
You could read it about
put it with
COVID
anything,
or the current Russian war.
Any threat that you're not taking seriously because people tell you not to, or whatever. But yeah, it's climate change because it's something that's not tangible until it's too late, you know? And then even though all the scientists are saying it, but yeah, what do scientists know, you know? So-called experts.
This plays like an absurdist, surrealist comedy in places. The extent to which people are like stupid or evil.
It was like Idiocracy at some points, but then
is like just a bit too beyond believability for me, for the tone that it's going for, which is quite...
Yes. But then at the same time, you think, oh, this isn't that far removed from reality, is it?
Oh, I know.
And then it's depressing.
I'll tell you what joke I loved. I think it was my favourite part in the film.
Go on.
I loved when Mark Rylance playing a...
I did like his performance in general, yeah.
Yeah, BAFTA nominated, but not Oscar nominated, Mark Rylance for this role. I mean, Mark Rylance is always pretty dependable. But
it's a fun role, though. I like
he's having fun with it. Yeah. And he's very good, I must say. He really nails it. I think the cast in general are very good in this film. But then, you know, they're not doing, like, the heaviest lifting.
I don't know if... just telling Jonah Hill to do whatever he wants is the right idea. It definitely falls flat.
He was, if I had to pick someone out as an example of someone who didn't really work in the film.
And it's so obvious that he's just throwing stuff out there. It's not scripted or anything.
But yeah, so the bit I love was when Peter Isherwell, Mark Rylance's character, and Meryl Streep as the president are having a chat, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we've got an algorithm that tells us how everyone's going to die."
It got me so excited to know about my own death. I don't think I want to know. Yes, I do. I want to know.
You're going to be eaten by a brontorok. We don't know what it means.
A what?
A brontorok.
Oh. I thought, oh, that's a fantastic joke. And then I'm assuming you sat through the to the mid credits. Then they spell it out, and it kind of, I don't know, it detracted from the gag for me because that gag was there. Do you know what I mean? I didn't need to then see it beaten over the head. I thought that was just it was a beautiful kind of almost surreal like bit of humor there, because again it's like a world breaking gag because it doesn't make any sense that the algorithm would be so advanced that it would name. Not only would it be able to tell that there's like alien life out there, anyway. Yeah, there's some good gags in there. I thought the music in this film was great, actually. Can we talk about the score?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I didn't
Good
get
score.
it, but go on.
All right, well, good score. good music. Yeah, it's fine.
Again, a bit too long. Just drags it out
It's way
a bit
too long.
much.
Yeah. But I mean, he's ever dependable. Is old DiCaprio. It's nice to watch him.
it's-
Same for Jennifer Lawrence, really, when
Yeah,
she's
yeah,
actually invested in something, and you can tell she's cares about what she's doing here. Meryl Streep was a joy, but she's obviously having a lot of fun with it. Mark Rylance a joy, same thing. Tyler Perry, I like when he turns up in not Medea
Real films.
Yeah. Kate Blanchett, a nice turn from her.
Didn't recognise her for about
Yeah,
30 minutes
same.
after she turned up. Yeah, it took me a while.
I quite like the Ron Perlman running gag of him sort of saying stuff that was completely unacceptable as the sort of astronaut hero from the past they had to call on to save the world, and everyone's just something like, it's a different time.
Yeah, but again, it just felt like it's just hammering me in the face with your satire.
That's is that even satire though? I mean, that was just sort of
Well, yeah, very broad, I guess.
Yeah,
What you
yeah.
said. So yeah, it just didn't quite come together, I
Yeah.
suppose. Even though there was enjoyable moments in it, the whole thing was a bit depressing because it just reminds you how shit America is.
I'm not going to hold that against it. I think it's supposed to be depressing. But I wish he'd struck a more consistent tone. I think you could make this film a lot sillier in the kind of Anchorman style of things, and it would work a lot better. Or you could make this film a lot more serious, but still comedic, akin to Vice and The Big Short, and it would have worked a lot better. It's just this has an awkward...
And obviously it's in that style.
But this is
I
it,
think that would have been
because it's kind of shot, edited, put together superficially in that more grandiose awards bait style, but then you have Jonah Hill improvising for hours and trimmed down to 2 minutes. So, it's just that kind of... It doesn't quite align. So yeah, anyway, I'm giving this an incredibly generous score here, but hey, I had a decent time watching it. 7 out of 10 from me.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit generous. I give it a 6.
Yeah, fair.
Lots of things to like there, but just
Yeah.
just a bit too broad.
Anyway, let's talk about actors again.
All right. Oh yeah. Okay.
Let's do lead actress, I guess, next. We've got Jessica Chastain, Eyes of Tammy Faye.
Oh yeah.
I've not seen it, but I like her, and I believe that's an award-worthy performance. Totally believe that. Kristen Stewart for Spencer, where she plays Lady Di. What died?
Right. Okay.
This was she was like getting shitload of awards buzz back at the start of the year, because the film came out quite early. It was a big like, oh wow, Kristen Stewart can act, which I've been banging the drum off for a while. I think she's a perfectly decent actor. She could win it. I don't think she's the favourite anymore. I think the favourite is now Nicole Kidman, being the Ricardos. To be fair, good.
Don't know that either.
Nicole Kidman is a bit of a 50-50 when it comes to her performances, but, she's all right. She's good in it. Olivia Colman, The Lost Daughter. That's a Netflix film.
Don't know that one either.
And Penelope Cruz for Parallel Mothers.
Oh, right, yeah. I haven't seen any of those. So.
Me neither, apart from being the Ricardos. I'll tell you who I would have done.
Go on, yeah. I could have phrased that better, but...
Well, I said what I said. I would have gone with Lady Gaga from Hasaguchi. Oh, hey, Paolo. He's climbing back in through the window there. Alana Haim, Licorice Pizza. I mean, she's there. It's a weak year, innit? Nicole Kidman, being the Ricardos.
Okay.
Emma Stone, Cruella.
Fair enough.
Controversial.
Yeah. You like an Emma Stone.
I do. She's very good in Cruella, though.
I like Emma Stone, actually.
She's very good in Cruella. She's having a lot of fun, but I don't think that should detract from the acting, And I would give the award to Jodie Comer for The Last Duel. I thought she was excellent in that film. That film really snubbed, actually, at the Oscars. That's an award-worthy film that should have been up for everything. It was much better than...
It's all you know.
Well, it was a Ridley Scott film, so he released 2 films this year that kind of could have been Oscar-nominated, and neither one was. So, next film, Alan.
Next one is Drive My Car.
Ding dong.
I hope that's Japanese Bond behind the door, because I've got some questions for him.
Oh, let's open the door.
Go
Oh. Oh, wow. View to a kill for your eyes only. Moonraker. Octopussy. Quantum of Solace. Doctor No Golden Eye. You only live twice. Live and let die. Baby, you can drive my car. License to kill, gold finger. Baby, you can drive my car. Oh. And maybe I'll shag yous. Oh, yeah. All right, Japanese Bond.
All right, mate.
You're right, Lash.
Yeah, can I ask you a quick question?
Just representing the old Japan, you know.
Yeah, well, that's what I want to ask you about, actually.
Thought I might enter Eurovision.
No, I think you've missed the Japanese Bond. How come the Japanese culture seems to be repressing your emotions and not expressing anything, and then working hard until you die? What's that about?
Well, you know, it's hard being Japanese, isn't it?
Well, I know, but I guess what I'm saying is, from what I know of Japanese culture, I hate it, and this film expresses it quite a lot.
Oh, you like? What's that about? Like, right, sure. First of all, lads, right, that is offensive. You don't like ramen noodles, you saying? You don't like karaoke, you saying?
Well, it's not what I said, but I'm happy to say it.
You got fucking Super Mario Brothers over here, Paolo. You wouldn't have any of that shit without Japan culture, right?
Yeah, I'm alright with that.
Oh dear. Well, this is an interesting one, Alan, because again, like The Power of the Dog, I couldn't tell going into this film. This has all the hallmarks of something you would love.
Yeah.
Long, tedious, boring film where nothing happens, a rumination of grief. And I forgot that you do hate Japan.
I don't hate Japan, I just hate...
You just hate me, you fucking shite.
No, I do hate Japan, I'll go with that.
Right, well... fuck off. You've offended him, Alan. He's left.
No, I tell you
We
what.
still got Paolo. Paolo came back. Remember?
We've been talking about films that are too long.
Ooh-wee. I watched this one last night, and I only got in at midnight, so I was up late getting this movie watched for the Oscars. 3 hours long.
It is 3 hours long, and
unnecessarily so.
Oh my god, unnecessarily so. The first hour, not only is it not necessary, but it would actually be better without it, I think. I think it shows too much. I think if we had that information sort of drip-fed later on, it would have more of an impact. And just to rub it in, they put the opening credits in an hour in,
it's 45
as if
minutes,
to say, hey, even we know all that was bullshit. It's like they're mocking us. I don't appreciate that.
Well, you know, Nightmare Alley did it, so why can't these guys do it? I really got on board with this film's kind of tone. I thought it was a really beautiful, dreamlike atmosphere. I thought it was a quite nice rumination on grief. I thought individual scenes and sequences were just exquisite. There's a scene in particular, which is when
with him and the young man in the back of the car?
Yeah, and they're talking, and he tells them about a bit of this.
I could have watched that one scene and I would have been happy with like a 20-minute short film. Yeah. That would have been great.
And you're right, actually, because now that you say it, without that first 45 minutes and just hearing it all in that scene, would have worked fine. And that's the problem. I think all the stuff that I loved in this film, and I mean like really loved, is just diluted by there's too much water in this glass of Ribena, Alan. It's overlong, seemingly unnecessary scenes and shots as well. This shot will last 3 minutes for no reason, you know? And it just detracts from the oomph this film might have had. Because a different edit even of this film, just trimming, not even adding anything or changing anything else, just cutting some stuff out. This would be my favourite of the year with a different edit, I think. It might be one of my favourites ever.
Yeah, I think there's definitely things to like here, but there's also the whole kind of what I'm calling a subplot with the actual driver girl and her story felt added on. It didn't feel like it was particularly adding to everything. They weren't playing off each other. It was like, I know it's kind of dealing with grief in different ways and the guilt element of this, like survivor's guilt almost.
Yeah.
But it didn't feel like they were working together, did it?
Yeah, I agree. I've heard people talk about the film as a twofer between these two, and how they kind of come together and help each other through something. And while the last part is sort of true, it does just kind of feel like, oh, how can we get this character from point A to point B? We'll add another character and not really give him the time of day. I kind of agree with you. And I think the film, again, would actually be stronger without that character. Just this man dealing with the fact that he was cheated on by his wife. This is all in the opening prologue of the film, so I'm not counting it as spoilers, but he's cheated on by his loving wife, who he feels he had an excellent relationship with, except that she likes to shag around. And
I quite like that it kind of came. I quite like that it came to a resolution of his like, she can love me and just want to shag someone 30 years younger than me. That's all right.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't think that requires the other character. My point is, like, for me, that was the interesting part of the film, him dealing with that, dealing with the fact that he sees his wife sleeping with this young man. He doesn't confront them. He sneaks out of the house and just leaves him to it. And then later on, he's casting a play. That man comes in. He ends up giving the guy a role in the play that he's completely wrong for, because it's some weird, like, he wants to keep him around. He wants to kind of toy with him. I don't know, get to know him, see what his wife saw in him. It's not
the way you've said that suggests there's some malice there. It doesn't even feel like that. It's just a kind of weird curiosity. Like, it reminds him of his wife somehow.
It's a very understandable, I think, very human impulse that and I found all of that fascinating. I found all of that sort of stuff just an incredible exploration of
Didn't you
humans.
Didn't you think though that the play he was putting on was just total shite?
Oh yeah, totally.
What a load of shit.
Is that a famous play?
Oh yeah, it's a famous Chekhov play. But it's doing a play in several different languages at once,
including sign language.
But that feels like something where you go, oh wow, that's really powerful, and then you go, oh hang on, no, it doesn't mean anything, does it? Because if you're not using that to explore communication or lack of communication, which you're not, the play just goes on as normal.
Exactly.
Then what are you saying? Nothing. That's what you're saying. So that wound me up. Also, he seems like a really shit director, because he just tells them to read the.
Oh, he's a dreadful director. But is he a dreadful director, or is that meant? I couldn't tell. There's a bit in the film where one of the characters, an actor, she asks for some direction, and he basically says, "Just read the fucking lines." And I the way it's put together, it's hard to not take it as, oh, he's in an emotional bad place and therefore doing a bad job right now as a director. Why else would they even include that scene where she asks him for help? I don't think you're meant to be on his side there.
No.
And I think that's meant to be like, oh, he's...
But the problem is we see them doing all that, and it's like, okay, well, they're supposed to be like just learning the rhythm of the thing, like learning the line, but it's not in a rhythm, so it doesn't really make any sense.
But all the other characters say as much. He leaves the room, and then they're like, what the fuck?
Yeah. And he's obviously just trying to break their will so that they just like do what he says. But
which is a valid.
But then we just kind of jump forward.
Director, you know?
But then we jump forward, and then it's like we see him rehearsing and actually acting it, and then he's like, "Oh yes, they've had a moment." And it's like, "Well, when did that happen? Because you weren't involved in that, mate. You're like either any directing you've done, we haven't seen it. Has not been involved in this film." So,
yeah. Well, no, that he gave him a common enemy to rally behind, didn't he?
Right, is that how it works?
That's how you do it.
So yeah, that all annoyed me. Have you ever suffered from grief, Sol? You ever lost anyone close to you? Because I haven't, and maybe that means I'm not connecting with this in a way I'm supposed to.
I mean, it's kind of been undone now because they're bringing it back. But when Futurama got cancelled in 2013, ooh-wee. Ooh. No, I mean, not really. The closest I think I've ever come, and this is pathetic to say out loud, but was when David Bowie died. I did. I mean, a very kind of, what's the word? Not loose, distant friend. From when I was younger, he was really a friend of a friend, but incredibly attractive young woman who I spoke to a bit here and there, and was, trying to slowly worm my way in. She killed herself, committed suicide. I found out after, like, out of the blue one day, and that was quite upsetting. But it amounted to a couple of cries, and then kind of getting over it. It wasn't like she wasn't a big enough part of my life for it to be like proper grief,
See, I've never had that. Like the closest I've had is like my grandma. My grandma died, but she was an old lady, and it was sort of expected. It wasn't exactly a big shock, and
What about when your mum took your perfectly healthy cat to the vet and had it put down for just because she couldn't be asked?
Well, she didn't tell me till 2 months later, so.
So if it happens in the past, it's old history. It doesn't matter.
Do you know what the really fucked up thing actually is, Sol? I think any time, like in my life going forward, the most grief I am going to feel is going to be for a cat. Like one day I will have a cat, and I'll have it for 10 years, and then it'll die, and it will break my heart. But I don't think I'm ever going to have that relationship with a human.
Is Grace going to listen to this? I do find myself grieving for past relationships every now and then, like romantic relationships, and not in the sense that I miss them or want them back, but I will just think back to like an in-joke or a nickname that we had and think like, oh, it's such a shame that is gone, and that is never going to exist again, and that, specific interaction with this person can never be, I don't want it to be again, really, what it would take to kind of make that happen again. Like that will make me sad, and I think that's operating on like the mildest version of grief, isn't it?
All right. Well, Drive My Car. What did you rate it?
My initial reaction after I watched this was it was my favourite film of the Best Picture nominees this year. I then thought about it long enough and kind of compared it to my like rankings lists of 2021 and stuff, and realised, oh no, I did prefer West Side Story. I just kind of waited long enough since watching it to forget that I preferred it. So this is my second favourite film of this bunch. I give it a 7 out of 10. But like I say, a different edit, this could have got up to like a 9.
Oh god, yeah.
Maybe a 10. I don't know.
There's a really solid sort of 40-minute film here, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I give it a 6 for all the reasons we've discussed.
Yeah. All right. Well, moving on. Oh, actually, before we move on, should we do some more actors?
Oh yeah, go on. Let's do female supporting actors.
Okie dokie. All right. Well, you have seen most of these for a change.
Ooh.
Ariana DeBose. I don't know how the fuck you say that. West Side Story. That's the one.
Which one is she?
It's the one you liked.
Oh, I like the character. The performance. Oh, I like the performance, but didn't blow me away.
She's the favourite to win, and I don't really get it.
Yeah.
She's fine. Anjanou Ellis.
Who's that?
She is whichever one it is in King Richard.
Anjanou Ellis plays the mum of the Williams sisters in that. Yeah.
Oh, I just assumed it was one of the kids. The mum's barely in it. Let me look her.
Yeah.
I'm just going to look up a picture of her. I've just got the names written down here. That's my problem. Yeah.
I mean, the bits she does, very solid. It's like she does have to carry some emotional weight there.
Yeah, you're right. She does have some big emotional swings in there, but it kind of feels like they don't have anyone else to make up the numbers.
Yeah.
All right. Jessie Buckley, the Lost Daughter. I'm going to guess she is the titular Lost Daughter, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know that one.
Judi Dench, Belfast. I think that's well-deserved.
It is, but it's safe.
It's a bit obvious.
Actually, it's her and
Kieran Hines.
What's his name? Kieran Hines. They're a nice little partnership there. No problem with that, really.
I'll tell you what's annoying about it is that Catriona Balfe is not nominated, and she is by far the best performance.
Oh, you
in
liked her in
Belfast.
that, didn't you?
She's way better than Judi Dench in that film. Do you not think? But she isn't.
You
Judi
liked
Dench.
her a lot. I didn't. She didn't blow me away, I guess.
Yeah. And then Kirsten Dunst is there for Power of the Dog, which is nice because I didn't think they would acknowledge her, but they did.
Yeah, again, not that bothered, but it's fine.
Right. Well, do you want my 5, Alan? Here we go.
Go on then.
Now, all right. Number 5 and 4 on here are kind of making up the numbers, but we've got Marlee Matlin from CODA. That's the mum.
Yeah, okay.
More on that in a bit. Judi Dench, Belfast. Kirsten Dunst, Power of the Dog. Alice Feetham from Boiling Point.
Yeah.
Not seen it, have you? And then
Don't know that
Catriona Belfast, who I would give the award to. Off that note of that woman, what I just said her name,
Marley Matlin.
Marley Matlin.
She's already Oscar nominated.
Is she?
Previously, yeah, back in the day.
For what?
In the 90s. That thing where she plays a deaf person. I can't remember what it's called. But, that one that she's famous for.
Well, moving on, Alan. Go on.
CODA was next.
Yeah.
Now,
and I will say right now, I think that the standout performance in CODA is
the one that's not
Troy Kotsur, the dad.
Is that
the dad?
Oh, really? I liked...
That is the dad, yeah. He's my favourite performance in the film.
The dad, I like the dad. I quite like the son. He had one really good scene where he had to do some emotion. I liked it. I liked him, what he was doing. Here's the thing about CODA, Sol, is that I don't know why a sort of 1980s after-school special is being nominated for an Oscar. This is such a by-the-numbers, weird kid discovers that she's special after all kind of film.
Look, I know what you're trying to say, Alan. Can I guide you slightly?
Go on, then.
I think this is less 1980s after-school special, more 1990s, early noughties, maybe Disney Channel movie.
Okay, well that's a lot better then. Yeah, fair enough.
Well, I know
what you mean, though.
It felt like a kids movie.
It's so straightforward. It's so basic soup story.
Yeah, it felt like it was made for kids. Like it really does. It's obviously about a kid, but it's like my ex used to watch just the shittest TV like dramas, and she watched some good stuff as well, but she was really into teen dramas. And it's like I never really watched
drama, yeah.
I never really watched teen dramas because every time I tried to watch them, when she be watching one, such as Euphoria, which is like the new big thing on HBO, second biggest thing they've got other than Game of Thrones, it feels like I'm being talked down to. It's like I wouldn't read a Goosebumps book seriously now because it's pitched at children. And it's not pitched at children in that kind of Harry Potter way where, okay, it kind of tells a good story, well written enough to work to adults. Because it's just like simplistic and basic. So I don't want to come at CODA too harsh, but no, I agree. It's a really simplistic, basic,
and it does it very nicely.
Yeah,
it does it well. It's nice acting. It's
that's it.
I think
it's a kids film, and I don't know why
basic, but it works. It feels quite
playing to adults.
I don't know why it's even in a conversation about awards. Never mind Oscars and Best Picture.
Weak year.
Well, I do know why. I do know why. It's because there's deaf people in it. That's why.
Well, that too, and also it's Apple Plus, Alan. Apple Plus are trying to get into what
that means.
Apple launched their streaming service,
so they've really pushed it.
So they're a bit less of a we're going to put loads of stuff on our service approach. They're a bit more like we're going to have one or two shows that you're going to want to watch, and you're going to pay us £5 a month for that. And look, I've been enjoying Apple Plus thanks to the free trial I got with my iPhone, and now my PS5. I've activated a different trial. And I've been enjoying it to watch your Ted Lassos and your Mythic Quests. But I don't think I'd pay £5 a month for that, I need a lot. Maybe in 10 years' time when they've built up, a few seasons of the shows. But and anyway, they're really going after like credible movies.
So they've obviously done a big push. They've they've greased the right palms on this film.
Yeah, and they had two big movies they were pushing this year: The Tragedy of Macbeth, which didn't get nominated in the end, and CODA, and this one squeezed in there. So Apple TV gave it a big push, and I think you're right. I think the deaf actors probably helped give it an air of credibility.
Let me ask you, Sol, right? I appreciate that Hollywood, the Academy, are trying to improve their visibility of disabilities and all that sort of stuff. That's fine. But why are they focusing so much on deaf people? Because there's a lot of that been going on. We had one last year.
We
It was
got
all
Mr.
about being
Magoo
deaf.
in the 90s, didn't we? So.
We got this. What's the other
Leslie
one with the
Nielsen
deaf person in this?
gave us that. But I'll tell you what, where was the Oscar for Leslie Nielsen?
What's the other film, the Oscar film that had a deaf?
Last Oscars, Sound of Metal, yeah.
No, this one. There's one in this year as well. Another one of
Is there?
one of these films had a deaf character in it. Oh, it was. I'm talking about Drive My Car. There's a whole bit in that where one of the characters is deaf and she's doing sound.
I watched that last night. Huh. But I was thinking within the Hollywood system, which that of course isn't. I think it's a lot more organic and justified in Drive My Car because they're doing a thing of bringing all these different language speakers together. And
this CODA is a film about deaf people. It's like that's what the whole point of it is. The same as the last year.
Well, it kind of is and isn't. That's the weird thing. It's ultimately a coming of age film about a girl stepping out and getting into a school to pursue music that she wants, and there's a bit of a rift between her parents and her. Yeah,
the deafness is what creates tension within the family.
The deafness is
within the community in general.
The deafness is the only justification for her parents not being on board with music. Otherwise, it'd be this hilarious, like, Footloose parody thing. But...
Well, there is, to be fair, there's very little in the way of kind of conflict or drama in the film. It's a very nice, everything's going to work out okay in the end, don't worry about it. Which, frankly, was quite nice after some of these films.
Yeah.
It was like, it was nice to have a nice, simple, basic story. I knew exactly what was going to happen, and everyone loved each other at the end. But it was superficial. It's just like, well, why?
I kind of agree. I will say, when you get to the last third, I think there's a couple of scenes which are, they're designed as little tearjerker moments. They work for me. Oh, yeah. I got really into it emotionally. Fine, I got more emotionally invested in this than I did Drive My Car, which I thought was a much better film. But the scenes where her parents are watching her perform singing on stage, and they're not able to really appreciate or understand what she's doing because they're deaf. So they start looking to all the crowd watching the daughter, and they see people like crying and stuff. And, that was like a really nice, like, they're kind of vicariously taking in the emotion from those around them. And then later on, there's a scene where she sings for the dad and he holds his hands on her throat to feel the vibrations. And I was really hoping that like someone was going to walk in and just see a man throttling like Homer Simpson style his daughter, but didn't happen. But I thought they were really nice emotional beats, and it's kind of a shame the film wasn't a bit stronger or deeper,
just a bit more sophisticated or something.
To make those scenes play better overall, because there's a lot of good here. Tell you what, it wasn't helped for me that I watched this on the Apple TV app on my PS5, and apparently their app is so aggressively shitty that it turned the film into a kind of interactive sensory experience for me, Alan.
What?
Well, you see, every 3 or 4 minutes, it would kind of forget that it was that there were supposed to be subtitles on the film. And I would have to kind of exit the film and then load it up again to get subtitles for the deaf people talking. So I had like 15 minutes at the start with no subtitles, where I was like, this is just like throwing us straight in, just submerging me in the film. Interesting.
I did that for the first couple of scenes, and I was like, no, I definitely should be able to, because I thought that was the point, like you can't understand what they're saying, but I was like, I realized that I should be able to hear what they're saying.
See, the problem I had was for the first couple of scenes I had subtitles. Then we went to high school or whatever. Then we came back. The thing had stopped playing the subtitles. So I thought, okay, we're just not doing subtitles anymore. Okay. It took me a while to realize what was going on. But, I think I kind of got the gist of it.
So Apple TV, shit?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Dreadful.
That's the review there. Yeah. Go on, what do you rate CODA then?
Again, very, very, very weak one of these. But I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Whatever.
Do you know what I think? Based on the film,
cliched
on its own,
sincere,
a basic 7, superficial. It does what it does, but it's really simple. But I watched this because it was a nominee for the Best Picture Oscar, and with that comes expectations, and that's why it got a 6 out of 10.
Oh, okay. Anyway, okay, actors.
One left. Oh
yeah, one actor's left. Supporting actor, Kieran Hines, Belfast.
Fair, I'm all right with that.
Yeah, I think that's well deserved. J.K. Simmons being the Ricardos.
I don't know that. He's always good value, though. I can believe that one. Not one of his best.
He's got one scene where he gives a little speech, and then he's in maybe 2 scenes where he doesn't really do anything. Look, he's great. He brings a lot to the film. I don't think it's enough to warrant an Oscar nomination, but whatever. Jesse Plemons, The Power of the Dog.
He's barely in that film and does very little.
I watched The Power of the Dog in January, I think, and I do not even remember Jesse Plemons in the film particularly. I know he's in it.
I mean, yeah, that's ridiculous. Like, that's not even a kind of, it's the sort of thing that they put people on for awards because he does this, he does that. Like, he's there to create a framework. He's not.
Yeah.
He's not. He doesn't do anything, and the character is sort of deliberately unemotional as well.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
That is weird.
Yeah. Cody Smith-McPhee. This guy is the favourite for The Power of the Dog. He's probably going to win it.
You see that? I understand why he's been nominated, even if I don't particularly amazed by it. But
and Troy Kotsur, CODA, the dad.
Oh, right, okay.
Fair enough, I think.
I'm all right with that, yeah.
It's a solid performance.
Nice,
he has a lot of charm, personality. He brings a lot to it.
Yeah, it does.
Now, all right, so my 5, Alan. You want him?
Go on.
David Nell, Pig. Have you seen Pig? I'm guessing not. Nicolas Cage film. David Nell is basically in one scene, and he plays a chef who Nicolas Cage basically tells him that he's like basically wasted his life pursuing like superficiality instead of proper art with his food and blah 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 blah. And it's a proper drama, this film. I don't know if you got the wrong impression of it, but just he conveys so much in that one scene. It's a really beautiful bit of acting, I think. It's a very powerful scene within a film that I didn't really care for overall. Then, come on, Andrew Garfield, Spider-Man.
Behave yourself.
He does a lot with very little in that film. I think it's...
If Tobey Maguire is your number 3, I'm going to smack you in the face.
Number 3, Alfred Molina. No, Kieran Hines, Belfast.
Yeah.
Well deserved in it. Number 2. Whoa. Oh, forgot you were still here, Al. How you doing?
Al Pacino. I'm in a house of Gucci.
Yeah, well, you know what he's like. He's a very reliable actor as well, is Al Pacino, isn't he? And then I would give it to Adam Driver, The Last Duel.
No, you love Adam Driver.
He's great, isn't he? Hey, Adam Driver did 3 performances this year that any one of them would have been a credible Oscar nomination. They didn't give him any of them. It would have been perfectly reasonable to give him a lead nomination for Annette, although that's probably the weakest one. Would have been totally reasonable to give him a supporting actor one for The Last Duel. And even a supporting actor one for House of Gucci wouldn't have been crazy. Anyway.
King Richard, the last of our nominees.
Again, this could go either way with you, but you are a big fan of the Will Smith, so I could see this getting a good score for Alan.
Well, I know, Saul. I know you love a sports film. You love the sports, don't you? I'll tell you what, though. Do you think this is a film about tennis? It's about tennis players. Do you think they could have made this film with any less tennis in it?
No, I did have that thought. There's
one match which just used to demonstrate, confidence, basically.
I have to ask, because you know Will Smith more than I do. I think you're a bigger fan than me. Can you shed any light on his decision to portray Richard as Milton from Office Space?
Is that what he's doing?
The chances of achieving the kind of success that you're talking about is just very, very unlikely.
I didn't receive my paycheck this week. If Sandra's going to listen to her headphones while she's falling, then I should be able to listen to the radio while I'm collating. So I don't see why I should have to turn down the radio because I enjoy listening at a reasonable volume.
Thanks.
From 9 to 11.
All right. So tell me your names again.
I'm Venus. I'm Serena.
Excuse me. But that's the last straw.
I'll tell you what made it utterly confounding. That Will Smith he spent the whole film kind of doing this kind of
A call from who?
Not at liberty to say.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You all need to look around. Go ahead, you can check on in the cupboards. Maybe you can go check under the beds, make sure it's no monsters. We got future doctors, and lawyers, plus a couple tennis stars in this house.
Will Smith is a great actor, right, when he's put to use properly. But he kind of has to play himself in different situations, right? And you watch The Pursuit of Happiness, that is Will Smith as himself in that situation. And it works. It's a great performance. King Richard here is Will Smith putting on some silly makeup, putting on a fake beard, greying up his hair, and doing a silly voice, and it's ludicrous. And I actually thought it was a pretty bad performance, but he's the favourite to win this year's Oscars. So
I wasn't comfortable with Will Smith doing the black voice, which I think I'm sort of tuning into the same thing, because he's actually like going, "Oh yeah, my daughters is going to be tennis stars."
Yeah,
and I was like, "Oh, I don't know if Will Smith can get away with that, can he? I don't."
Yeah, no, I
didn't feel comfortable about it.
It's a little bit.
Well, I don't like Will Smith playing sincere when he does his "I'm about to cry" eyes. It just feels like it's the same thing every time, and in this film, that's all he does the whole way through.
You hate that episode of The Fresh Prince where he meets his dad, and then his dad goes again.
You know, I like Will Smith as a charismatic persona, but I don't know if he's that good an actor. Frankly, he's a good star, not necessarily a good actor. But let's dig into the actual film a bit, because I know a little bit about Venus and Rome. I'm not a big tennis fan, but I know, and I assume you know absolutely nothing.
I mean, so I'm aware of them.
How does this play to you? Because I kind of know what's going to happen at the end. So.
Do you want me to name tennis players? And I'll tell you, I know as many coming out of this film as I knew going in, right? All the tennis players I could name for you: Venus, Serena Williams, Pete Sampras, Tim Henman, John McEnroe.
Yeah.
That's it. No, Borg. There's one called Borg because it was Borg v McEnroe. That's it.
Well, 4 out of 6 of those are in this film, so that's a pretty good guy. Story of these two great tennis stars, great sports people, trailblazers for female sporting athletes, trailblazers
female rights for
non-white
black women as well, like especially underserved in terms of diversity. Oh, let's focus on the patriarch.
Let's make a film about the strong man behind them who really made them what they are. That seems
let's
like
give him all the credit.
Now, it's obviously an interesting story, and it's
not only that, Alan, but a controversial figure. And look, I do want to preface this by saying, look, I don't know tennis. I don't know the man, and I will acknowledge that he was an outsider coming into a predominantly white world in the 90s. Like, maybe
not just the whole white thing as well. It's money. There's a lot of money in tennis.
But my point is, he's a controversial figure. Maybe that's unfair. Maybe he is the saint. He's portrayed. Maybe he is the saint he's portrayed as in this film. But from what I've heard, he's a bit controversial, tantamount to child abuse.
Well, that was it, because even within the film, I couldn't tell if this was like a total hagiography or if it was he's obviously still alive. The Venus and Serena Williams are still alive and very powerful, so you can't really just... he does things here which I just think, wow, that's a horrible thing to do, or that's a really crazy thing to do, or that's a really just... nasty thing, or not even nasty, but just like you're just pushing back for pushing back's sake. But then you try to go, well, I can see why he's doing that. Look at his background. You understand that. It feels like they're trying to create a complicated character, but it never goes beyond a surface level. And you never dig down. And because you never get into those kids, you never really see what they're going through and how much they must hate him. Or do they love him? Do they love him because he's their dad, even though he's pushed them? Or does he push them in a good way? Because then we try and justify the fact that he doesn't push them. He takes them out of that pressure. But all that means is that he stops Venus from playing in junior tournaments from like 11 to 14. But that means at age 14, she goes onto the biggest stage, plays the world number 1 on centre court in front of thousands of people. And she hasn't got the experience of having played in front of 50 people and then 200 people in these smaller tournaments. I don't know why playing other people at tennis is why he thinks that's a bad thing for a tennis player. I don't know what his logic is.
Yeah, it's bizarre, isn't it? Well, it played almost to me like just a petty don't tell me what to do, which is what made the film play weirdly to me, because it felt like we were just glossing over some darkness that might exist
exactly
the whole way through the film, and especially when there's a big emotional payoff scene near the end where Serena is just kind of like, because only Venus gets to be kind of the big tennis champ who's given free coaching by this mega tennis coach. And at the end, we have this scene where she's just a bit like miffed, like, oh, I like tennis too, and my sister's doing really good, and I'm not even allowed to, And then Will Smith comes up and he's like, hey, you're my favorite, you know that? And it's like, is that good parenting? He basically says, like, hey, look, I picked her because you're the better tennis player, and it's going to drive you. I knew it was going to drive you fucking crazy, and now you're going to be an even better tennis player. And, like, I don't know, maybe that's good motivation, but it also feels weird to pick to rank your children in that way, full stop.
You go with the oldest one, don't you?
Yeah, I don't know, it's just weird.
Do you know what, though? I think that's it. It's like, it feels like all these kind of unusual things he does is justified by the fact, and watching this film we know, they go on to become huge tennis stars. So everything he does has to be right because it worked, but that doesn't mean that he got it right. Do you know what I mean?
That's another problem I have with it, is it's the classic real-life biopic trap of there's no conflict. Bad structure, really. Again, writing problems. It's just, we kind of, there's no conflict. There's conflict early on when Will Smith gets into a fight with some, and that's his dark, that's like meant to be the dark moment for his character, I think, that he goes and buys a gun, or does he buy a gun, or just,
well, he's got one for his job, so I think it's that.
He goes and gets a gun and he's gonna go and shoot the guy, and then Deus Ex Machin car drives past and guns the guy down for him, and then we never really see any fallout from that. It's just kind of like, what's this trying to say? Like, we're making the point that you've come from a rough neighborhood. I guess that's there, but then that's kind of glossed over, really. We're trying to say the character's got this dark side, but then we don't really get into that. I don't know. So anyway, like, look, I didn't hate it. I found it incredibly watchable. Will Smith is very charismatic. It's shot in a way where, all the acting is kind of decent, or not decent, because I don't think Will Smith is decent in this film, but all the actors are charismatic, I guess. But I don't know, I could sit through it and watch it and go, oh, is that what happened with them? Is that what? Okay. But it ultimately left me feeling really like hollow, superficial, awards grab, insincere.
I think you completely nailed what I was thinking when you said it feels like it's not mentioning the darkness. It's like there's something else going on under here that is like an elephant in the room. And it's like, there's definitely some nastiness here. Yeah. And you get these occasional moments where, it's mentioned that he was married before and had 5 kids that he never sees. Yeah. But then there's stuff like that has put us kind of positives, that he literally had 2 children because he wanted to raise them as tennis people, and like that was like a weird thing. Like, he wrote a plan for them before they were born. It's like, that's weird. That's really weird. But the fact that they became tennis stars and therefore a huge success in life justifies it somehow. It's And he's putting all these things about, like, well, they still have to do well in school. I don't want them to be too committed to it. I don't want to put pressure on them. I want them to enjoy it. And all these things seem like a good, positive things. But then he's constantly putting pressure on them. Yeah. So it's just this weird dichotomy of the character, which is not explored enough. It's kind of frustrating. You want more out of it. Yeah. And I tell you what I really wanted. I wanted this kind of throughout, but then when I saw all those clips at the end of the actual real, the Williams sisters and stuff, what I really wanted to see a film about this relationship between these sisters.
Yeah, who, I agree. I want a film about them.
At the peaks of their career were real proper rivals, and how the fact that Venus had all this success and she was the greatest in the world, and then Serena was just a couple of years behind her and was the best of all time. Like, Serena has won 3 times as much thing as Venus. Like, because Venus kind of burned out, she had injuries and stuff. Serena had this, not just the best in the world, but best in the world for like 15 years. It's amazing. And there's so much to be told. They played doubles together, they had doubles tennis, they team up. And obviously, like, the 2 best players in the world, so together they were just unbeatable. And that relationship, there must have been conflict there at times. There must have been, but there's obviously real love there. I mean, that's a fascinating story.
And I agree with what you were saying with there not being any tennis in the film. Look, I find sport boring as fuck. I hate it. I don't understand why you would ever watch sport in real life, because the problem I have with it is why would you put importance on one person winning over another? Like a team supporting your hometown team is like, right, these people were born nearer to me than the other people, except not if they hire players from elsewhere and blah, 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 blah. Like, the whole thing is completely arbitrary bullshit nonsense to me. But in a film, we get to spend time learning who the character is and so on. So I actually can get invested in sport within a film if you make me care about the characters, because it's like, right, I know Rocky now. I'm rooting for Rocky. You know, I'm invested in him now. Like, I understand why you'd watch sport if you're the player's parents, you know, I get that. And so I do think it's a bit of a failing on this film that, yeah, there's no, like, they never really have tennis in it, and it's a missed opportunity to, like, film tennis and make it look cool, because I've seen sport filmed and portrayed. I mean, it's not a sport, but Black Swan is a great example. They film ballet in a way that makes it interesting. I wouldn't like ballet if I watched it normally, I guarantee you, but you present it in a film, like, with nice camera angles and edits. It's like, oh wow, this is bringing this alive. I'm seeing what people see in it. And Whiplash does it for jazz music, and I think this could have done it for tennis, but it just kind of isn't interested. It's more interested in Will Smith's grey hair.
Do you know what, right? In the Williams sisters, right, their peak, early 2000s, Venus Williams had come along and won a few things. And then in 2002, there's 4 major tournaments in tennis per year, and they played each other in the final of 3 of them, and Serena Williams won all 3. That's your era that you build this around, this tension between these sisters, the one that's already a success and then the other one who comes along and kind of overtakes her. And there must be some conflict in there, but you know, under it all there's love and all that sort of stuff. That's what you build it around. That's the interesting stuff, right? That's where the story is. Plus, by that point, they're in their early 20s, so you can actually hire proper actors instead of child actors and actually get them to act and play tennis. Yeah. That's the era you make this film about. And then the dad can be a really interesting supporting character.
Yeah.
Do a couple of flashbacks.
All right, Alan, what would you give it?
You know, nicely put together, just all a bit superficial, and didn't particularly care for Will Smith in it. I gave it a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, same here. Very watchable, but a lot of problems, and I don't know why it's here. 6 out of 10.
So I think that my highest rating for any of these films is Belfast. It's the only one I gave a 7 to, isn't it?
I mean, that's ludicrous.
Which is, like, obviously that's not the best film. It's just not. None of these are worth a damn, really.
Well, what do you think should win out of this meager selection of?
It shouldn't.
Films? They should say no Oscars this year.
They should say, look, we've looked at what's been made, and no one
rose to the to the call this year.
Yeah.
I maintain lists, Alan. You know all about
do.
my lists. Do you know one of my lists is I average out my ratings for all the Best Picture nominees each year and kind of rank them to get a sense of, like, oh, that was a good year, that was a bad year.
Yeah.
Minimum of 3 seen. So the problem is I haven't seen all the nominees yet.
That's fair.
You know. So, you know, what do you think's in the top spot?
What, years?
Yeah.
95 or something like that.
Yeah, bingo. 95 is my highest rated year. Well done.
Okay.
You want to know? That's for the films of 94.
Yeah.
Which were, of course, Forrest Gump, 4 Weddings and a Funeral, not seen that one. That would probably bring the score down here. Pulp Fiction, Quiz Show, and The Shawshank Redemption. I give them an average of 9 out of 10. Anyway, I've got on this list so far 47 years that I've seen 3 or more films in, so not bad. Good. I'm watching my way through them.
See, this year, like, I've given I've given them all a 6. There's a couple that have dropped down, one that dropped up, but it's just because I was in a good mood. This is not a bad year. It's just a really mediocre year.
10 mediocre films is a bad year at the Oscars.
But I don't think it's going to be your worst.
It's not my worst. No, it's not my worst. I'll tell you right now, it is my 1, 2, 3, 4. Currently, it is my 7th worst year. Which is pretty bad.
I think your worst is going to be like 1936 or something like that.
No, actually. No. Might be because I've not seen enough films from 1936. My bottom, Alan, is 2002 for the films of 2001.
Go on, what's in it?
I've only seen 3 of these, so it might go up a bit when I get round to watching In the Bedroom in Gosford Park. Maybe my score will go up.
I don't know, Gosford Park. In the Bedroom I like, but it's my kind of film.
I gave these films an average of 5 out of 10. A Beautiful Mind, dog shit.
Yeah, okay.
One of the worst ever Best Picture winners.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring. We know how I feel about that.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
And Moulin Rouge, which, there's a lot to love about Moulin Rouge, but doesn't quite work for me as a whole. But so this year I have an average rating of 6.1 out of 10 for the films there. Not good, but it's kind of what you were saying. It's mediocre, isn't it?
Slightly better than mine.
And that makes it the worst Oscars on record for me since
2001.
No, since 2004, which is my third lowest.
What's in that one?
So that's the year Crash won. This is for the sorry. It's the year that Crash won anyway. Whatever that is. 2005 maybe for the films of 2004. Yeah. Is that what that is?
Yeah, I think so.
Crash won. Weak. Brokeback Mountain. Hate it.
I like Brokeback Mountain.
I know you do. Capote, not seen it. Good Night and Good Luck, not seen it. Munich. Munich's all right.
I think Capote and Good Night and Good Luck, I think there's going to be stuff there that you'll like.
Yeah,
I think they'll
like
pull
Munich.
you up.
Yeah, maybe. Should we put some bets on, Alan? You want to do some gambling?
No.
There's no like...
I don't think it deserves it. I just don't care.
There's no clear-cut winner for anything, which is just... It's all... Well, there's nothing I want to throw my hat behind enough to put money down. Do you think it's going to be any better next year? Do you think they're going to pull this shit together? Or do you think that's it now? Movies are done with.
I think films are generally finished now. I think we can just move on to TV.
All right. Billie Eilish is going to win an Oscar, isn't she?
She? What for?
Here she is. Couldn't get through without her. No Time to Die.
Is that best song, is it?
Yeah, it's probably going to win it. Do you not think? Probably is the best song out of the ones they've nominated, but they have very conveniently not nominated, like, better songs. Anyway. All right. Oscars, done.
Done.
Bye.
See you next year.